Well, hello and hello. I'm going to start with a song today. I don't know how this happened. I went from 130 viewers on Twitch to 1,001, like 1,100. Happened over the weekend. I have no idea how. Thank you. Thank you, universe. Thank you, whoever's responsible for these things. I'm going to start with a song today. This place is bubbling over, your money you can keep. Rather while away my days, dying in the street. Then spend another moment sucking up to you. You can take this job, put it up your ass, and this is what you'll do. Get fucked, get fucked. I didn't want this goddamn job anyway. Get fucked, get fucked. You fucked around and found out, go away. Just go and get a job that doesn't pay the rent. Go get an education and drown in all your debt. The billionaires don't give a damn how hard they're screwing you. So let's all send a message and tell them what to do. Get fucked. Get fucked. I didn't want this goddamn job anyway. Get fucked. Get fucked. You fucked around and found out. Go away. We're all in this together as long as you do all the work. While away your better days making money for some jerks. This deal ain't no kind of life, it makes me wanna scream. Let's round these motherfuckers up and get the guillotines. Get fucked. Get fucked. I didn't want this goddamn job anyway. Get fucked. Get fucked. You fucked around and found out. Go away. Yeah, you fucked around and found out. Go away. Yeah, you fucked around and found out. Go away. That one's a bit rough. I gotta work on the chording on that one. I give myself like a B for that. Glad to see you guys. Eggs D Cotton, as always. First in the gate. Good to see you guys. I'm gonna say it again. Just I don't know how this happened. My Twitch channel went from 130 viewers, 135 viewers to 1.1k subscribers. So that's what's happening in my world. That's what's happening with me. I was having a terrible day. I woke up grumpy. I woke up mad. I've been grumping around the house all day long. Just grump, grump, grump. This is me all day long. Everything I did, I was like. And now I'm in a much better mood. Dragon Fruit, thank you. Great song for sure. I think so. I think that's a killer song, honestly. If I can get my chording right, if I can learn how to perform it properly, that song's kick-ass. Like, that song's gonna sweep the nation, right? Gabriel, how are you doing? Good to see you. Dude, you know what? I know this makes me sound arrogant. I do not care. I am confident. I have 3, maybe even 4 songs that have no reason not to be internationally famous. That song I just played is just as good as Achy Breaky Heart. Don't Break My Heart or Take This Job and Shove It. Come on. That song is just as good as Take This Job and Shove It. For sure. There is absolutely no reason I should not be internationally famous amongst country western fans. Like, if Beyonce is is doing country albums, that means that there's a vacuum in the country section, and I am gonna fill the shit out of that. Ugh. As soon as the universe just bestows me, somehow. I have no idea who to talk to about this. Who's the manager? How do I talk to the manager? Anyway, there's my delusional ambitions for the day. Yeah, the arts is controlled because it's powerful. That's exactly right, Long Defiant. They can't control the people, no matter how hard they try. That if the people decide this is the song, tough shit, then that's what it is. So it's up to you now. It's up to all of you. Actually, what I really should do is get off my ass and finally... I gotta repair... I've got this... The thing that's holding me back from doing any recording, and it's been holding me back for way too long, is that I've got... My headphone jack is broken on my system, and I just haven't taken the time to go get it repaired. And I've been buried underneath capitalist work, and that's finally going to free up, and I'm going to get this headphone jack repaired, because you can't... I need a headphone set so that I can record over stuff. I've tried different methods of trying to get around it. It just doesn't work. You just need to have headphones and play along with what's being played. That's how you have to do it. And so I got to get this repaired, and then I can start recording this stuff. And then, like, putting out, like, little mini music videos. That's my goal, is to make little mini music videos about the songs that I'm playing. Right? Something that grabs you, something that's interesting, something that has, like, something to it. Something funny, ridiculous, silly. It doesn't even matter, right? And the challenge for myself as I'm going through all of this, for myself as an artist, is to stop being so goddamn self-critical, right? Just grab hold of the idea and do it, and just commit to it. Because it seems to me like the thing that people are really gravitating to is authenticity and commitment. That it doesn't matter what you do in this life. If you are a fan of, I don't know, stamp collecting, right? Commit. Be the best. Be the best. Yeah, Leo P is my favorite saxophonist. Insanely talented. Can't fill a theater. Yep. No. The arts is a mess. Of course it is. Like, of course it is. Everything's a mess right now, dude. Like, nobody knows what's going on. That's why everybody is, like, gravitating to survivalist strategies right now. We're just innately doing it. We're just gravitating towards survival strategies. Okay. Let's start with some lighthearted news. Something light and easy, right? Before we get into the, apartheid state, Gaza genocide, which is big news there. I mean, I'll give you a flavor of that, right? The ICC applies for arrest warrants against Netanyahu, Glant, and 3 Hamas leaders. So there you go. But before we get to that, hey guys, microplastics found in every human testicle in study. Microplastics have been found in human testicles, with researchers saying the discovery might be linked to declining sperm counts in men. The scientists tested 23 human testes, as well as 47 testes from pet dogs. They found microplastic pollution in every sample. The human testicles have been preserved, and so their sperm count could not be measured. However, the sperm count in the dog's testes could be assessed and was lower in samples with higher contamination with PVC. The study demonstrates a correlation, but further research is needed to prove microplastics can cause sperm counts to fall. Sperm counts in men have been falling for decades, with chemical pollution such as pesticides implicated by many studies. Microplastics have also recently been discovered in human blood, placentas, I know what words are, and breast milk, indicating widespread contamination of people's bodies. The impact on health is as yet unknown, but microplastics have been shown to cause damage to human cells in the laboratory. Vast amounts of plastic waste are dumped into the environment, and microplastics have polluted the entire planet, from the summit of Mount Everest to the deepest oceans. People are known to consume the tiny particles via food and water, as well as breathing them in. The particles could lodge in tissue and cause inflammation, as air pollution particles do, or chemicals in the plastics could cause harm. In March, doctors warned of potentially life-threatening effects after finding a substantially raised risk of stroke, heart attack, and earlier death in people whose blood vessels were contaminated with microscopic plastics. Capitalism's really work, right? This whole capitalism thing, dude, what a great trade. Yeah, exactly, Long Defiant. Yeah, we has iPhones. Right? iPhones, I live in future now. Oh, look. I could take picture of self and send it across world. Look at me. Bella Porch gets to go like this. Boom, 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 and I've got microplastics in my balls. That don't ban me for that, YouTube. Don't ban me for that. That's the record. That's the record. Yeah, no babies, apps. I feel like this is the universe fixing its problem. We showed up on the scene, and at first the universe is like, okay, humans. Yeah, you can play around in my garden. Sure, you can play around. These humans are problematic. Oh, looks like they learned how to exhume their own dead and process their own dead into power for themselves. Oh, they're trying to destroy the planet? Unleash the microplastics. Infect their balls. Dragon Fruit writes, did you hear about the Iranian president dying? His death seems very suspicious. Yes, it does. No one's claimed it. Literally no one has claimed it, right? This is my impression of every single nation on Earth. Right? With a couple of them being like, my deepest condolences, right? Like, it could be Mossad, it could be MI5, it could be, or MI6, it could be the CIA, right? There's a lot of could-bes associated with it. Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense to assassinate a high-level official, right? Because the hope, I mean, if I'm the CIA, this is how I'm thinking. The hope is that the political situation is so fragile in Iran that the assassination of a president, it triggers an election. And elections in, countries that are experiencing duress such as this, and are experiencing high levels of war and war awareness, this is the time that someone can slip in. This is the time that things can happen, right? So I think that the strategy is just create destabilization. But it could just simply be the thing crashed, right? Like, it could just be the universe just being like, yeah, let's go. I mean, the universe is already putting microplastics in our balls, right? Why can't the universe take this one to just be like, yeah, let's do it? That's hilarious. In other hilarious news, orcas sink a sailing yacht in Strait of Gibraltar. Orcas are back at it again, everybody. Last year, there were lots of orca attacks on boats, and they're doing it yet again. This is the precursor to the rise of the Dark Lord Cthulhu. May his reign last 1,000 years. He is sending the orcas to give us warning, to let us know that the oceans do not belong to us. The oceans belong to those denizens of the deep. The denizens of the deep. Yeah, down with exactly. Mikhail, good to see you. Pam, good to see you too. An unknown number of orcas have sunk a sailing yacht after ramming it in Moroccan waters in the Strait of Gibraltar. Spain's Maritime Rescue Service said on Monday, a new attack in what has become a trend in the past 4 years. The vessel, Albaran Cognac, just the most pretentious name. Just the most pretentious name. Literally, I actually cannot think of a more pretentious name offhand. Like, just Bugatti. And you might as well just name it Andrew Tate, which measured 15 meters in length and carried 2 people. Great. 15-meter boat, which is 49 feet long, and was carrying 2 people. Just 2 people out for a joyride in their Cognac 49-foot vehicle. Encountered the highly social apex predators, also known as killer whales, at 9 a.m. local time on Sunday, the service said. The passengers reported feeling sudden blows to the hull and rudder before water started seeping into the ship. Get fucked, Cognac. After alerting the rescue services, a nearby oil tanker took them on board and transported them to Gibraltar. Oh, thank God they were safe. The yacht was left adrift and eventually sank. They did it. They sank the thing. They sank a 49-foot boat. God bless them. God bless them. Experts believe them to be involved in a subpopulation. Oh, hold on. The incident is the latest example of recurring orcas ramming around the Gibraltar Strait that separates Europe from Africa and off the Atlantic coast of Portugal and northwestern Spain. Experts believe them to be involved in a subpopulation of about 15 individuals, given the designation Gladys. There have been nearly 700 interactions since orca attacks on ships in the region were first reported. Researchers are unsure about the causes of the behavior. Are you? Are you unsure? Like, I understand how, like, you are like, we don't want to pin it down to one thing. We don't really know what it is. But you don't have any theories. You don't have any ideas that maybe these orcas are like, fuck these guys. Right? Like, you can't put yourself in the position of the orca looking at humans, acting the way that we act, and finally the orca's just deciding, fuck this. Who are these guys? What do these guys think they're doing? This fucking unbelievable, like, it started with just one of them. Just one boat went by, and we all just went, it was just one boat. We should have started then. We should have been ripping these boats apart right away. The second they step foot in these waters, we should have been going after these guys. Right? Look what they're doing. Look at the bullshit. The Dark Lord Cthulhu is deeply upset, and we shall enact his will against the human population. Hard to hate him. Hard to hate him, right? Hard to sit here and be like, those orcas should know their place. Don't they know that we are the superior species and that they should abide by our rules and regulations, even though we ourselves don't really abide by our rules and regulations? Speaking of not abiding by rules and regulations, the ICC applies for arrest warrants against Netanyahu, Gallant, and 3 Hamas leaders. When I first heard this news, I thought that it was the ICC issuing the warrants, but it isn't. It's just the prosecution saying, hey, we should issue arrest warrants, right? But this is enough to kick the hornet's nest. Few things that are of note that I really love. Worth recalling today that the ICC's Karim Khan was Israel's preferred candidate in 2021 when he was appointed, and that the Israelis supported his candidacy behind the scenes. So this guy was elected the next ICC prosecutor in 2001, and Israel was going, good. Yeah, this guy. We want this guy. This prosecutor here. That's how bad things have gotten. That the people Israel supported to be in the positions that they are in are turning around and going, yeah, bro. Like, this is genocide, right? Like, this is bad. We can't just let you get away with this, right? And this guy is now on record in an interview. Hold on. We're gonna do that in a second. This is a quote, right? A senior leader of America told him the ICC is built for Africa and for thugs like Putin and not for the West and its allies. That's a direct quote from this guy, Karim Khan, ICC chief prosecutor. This is what America and the West generally is telling him. And his response was, we disagree. We think the ICC actually stands above that idea, and that the West should definitely be part of our prosecution. Like, literally the system of capital is saying out loud in front of people, for everyone to hear, plainly and clearly, the rules do not apply to us. These rules do not apply to us. Embarrassing. Embarrassing at the highest order. Right? Long Defiant. I'm gonna read your comment because it's so brilliant. Conspiracy theory: the orcas were being trained by the Navy for military assault, but they were uncontrollable and released back into the wild. The behavior propagated to others. That'd be hilarious. That if it was our fault, I mean, it's right in line. Right? We arm far-right groups, and then we can't control them, and so then we've got to coup them and depose them and send the military in to deal with the people that we armed, right? Causing a quagmire, causing a difficulty, and then when we leave, those very people take over anyway. We've done the same thing just for the orcas. Orcas. Watson, good to see you. Nova Scotia, good to see you. Joe, good to see you too, guys. So glad that you guys are all here, man. Really. It's a pleasure every single time I hit record to talk to you guys. And good opportunity to say like, share, subscribe, hit the bells, hit the whistles. And again, I'm going to say it out loud because I don't know how. Hopefully, it will manifest continue blessings in my life. That the last time I checked Twitch, I had 135 followers. Today I checked 1.1k followers on Twitch. Don't know how it happened, but there it is. Huzzah! I'm not going to complain about it. Yeah, we disagree. Exactly. So, the responses to this, of course. Netanyahu runs to U.S. television to denounce the ICC arrest warrants against him, claiming the prosecutor's only motivation to defame Israel. And, all at once now, anti-Semitism. Yay! It's always anti-Semitism. Right? Like, it's only, these people are anti-Semitic. Everybody in the entire world is anti-Semitic except me. Everything I don't like is anti-Semitism. Charging me for crimes in Gaza. This is a direct quote from Netanyahu. Direct quote. Fiddleford, good to see you, my man. Direct quote from Gaza. From Netanyahu. Charging me for crimes in Gaza is like charging George W. Bush for 9/11. I mean, we're not interested in charging Bush for 9/11. We're interested in charging Bush for the invasion of Iraq. That's what we're interested in, right? Like, we're not Netanyahu. Do you not understand what you're in trouble for? Do you not get what's actually going on? Do you not really understand that the reason why we don't like you is because you're doing a genocide? Do you not understand that? Right? That the response to October 7th is disproportionate and has gone way beyond. Like, even if you're a person standing there and saying, Israel has the right to defend itself. Israel has the right to defend itself. Israel has the right to defend itself. Even if you're one of these guys, if you're still just blindly saying Israel has the right to defend itself while they're literally like bulldozing Gaza down, starving millions of people, just like carpet bombing the region, right? Literally policies that are explicitly anti-ethnic cleansing, just explicitly destroying the population and starving them, laying siege, shutting off their electricity, shutting off their water. If you're still, the only thing that you're doing is standing up and saying Israel has the right to defend itself, then you're a Nazi. And we get to say that, right? Like, if somebody walks past me and slaps me on the face, I think everybody would respond. Like, everybody would be like, yeah, it makes sense that I would slap him back and that there would be like a general kind of a scuffle, right? But if I instead took that man off the street and put him in a cage and locked him in a basement, shut off all the lights, fed him just enough to keep him alive, right? Made sure the air was really thick and hot so that he could barely breathe, and just left him in that situation permanently, I think everybody would be like, you're a fucking psycho. And I would be like, I'm just defending myself. That's what you sound like to us. That's what you sound like. You sound like a crazy person. Just an absolute lunatic. Right? Just an absolute lunatic. CH, good to see you. Hello, fellow Nova Scotia communists. Is there even a Nova Scotia Communist Party? It could be you. Just start it up. Just do it. There's groups propping up here in Toronto. I am checking out groups all over the place, trying to see where I'm gonna find my feet and find my home. And it makes, and I think there's gonna be a moment, and the thing I'm gonna constantly be advocating, the thing I'm gonna be constantly advocating for, is all of these disparate groups are gonna grow and jump up, and we've got to find ways to merge it all together. We got to find ways to coalesce, and we got to find ways to connect the dots. So if something pops up in Nova Scotia, something pops up in London, something pops up in York, something pops up here, we got to find a way, and we got to break this idea of exclusivity and like protectionism. We really got to get through that. So just me. I guess I'll talk about this. this is still pretty tentative, okay? But the organization that was previously called Fight Back has rebranded itself to the Revolutionary Communist Party, and that they are expanding branches across Toronto. One just popped up in my neighborhood, and it's very exciting. I understand that Fight Back is a contentious. I get that. I think that they understand that. But here's the hard reality, because I can already hear some of you typing, right? I can already hear some of you typing about Fight Back. Here's the reality. It's where the kids are going, right? Like, I understand that you probably have some difficulty and you're sitting there going, oh, they've got this and they got this. I disagree with them on this, and they did this thing over here, or there's this scandal, or there's this and this. Yeah, and back and forth it goes. It's where the kids are going. Like, I even if I sat there and went, okay, I agree. It's where the kids are going. Like it or not, that's the end of that story. And I also do think that the organization is, well, the organization is starting to accept that if they are actually going to expand and expand swiftly the way that they are, that they can't be fundamentalists. They just can't. I've had several conversations with several members that are like, yeah, I'm a Trotskyist, but I understand that, like, if I'm going to stand here and be like a Trotskyist and watch people come into this organization, and I'm going to alienate them out of this organization because of what I think is correct, we're just going to fail, right? I've had several conversations along those lines, and like, I that's what I really respect, right? That's what I really respect. So far, not my experience. I think that, honestly, Watson, I think that there's a lot of shit that gets talked about these guys, and I think there's a reason why that happens. I don't think that the things that are happening to this organization are happening in a vacuum. It makes sense that the system, like the media system that we operate in, wants to spread around bad information, right, about groups. Of course, they're going to spread around bad information about a group like this. And so far, anytime anybody stands up and says, this is my feelings about this group, I look at them, I interact with them, I talk to them, and I'm just not seeing it. So I think that they're really, really trying to get away from this old communist way of being like, this is the one true communism, and this is the thing, and we're going to do this, and if you disagree, then go away. Then they're dead, and they know it. So so those two things are what's attracting me, and I'm not going to stop, right? Like, I'm not going to stop. It's where the kids are going. Like, that by itself should be enough to convince anybody. Like, if you've got your little political group and it's you and one 70-year-old man, and then I look over and there's 150 young people, story's over. Just story's over. I know which way I'm going. No, I know all of this. Like, this is the thing, and this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? That this is their background. This is and what they call their tradition, right? But I just don't think that they're married to this shit, because I know that they don't think they have to be, right? Like, I just think that they understand that if they get married to this shit, they're dead. And that's the hard what have I been saying for 2-3 years now on this channel, guys? What have I been saying on this channel over and over and over again? I've said it on this channel over and 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 over again. If you're a fundamentalist about this stuff, you're dead. Like, and just hard pass on anything you have to say. You're going to stand up and you're going to be a fundamentalist. Everyone is going to walk away from you. And I'm watching it happen to parties in this city. I have been connecting to parties, and I've been going in and I've been saying, hey, like, you guys have been around for a long time. How come the kids aren't going to you? How come you're not growing? Where's your strategies for outreach and all this kind of stuff? And I get talking, and you know what it comes down to? They're fundamentalists. That's what it comes down to. That kids come in and they say, hey, I have these ideas about communism, and I have these ideas about what I like to see in my neighborhood, and they get shit on. They get shit on by fundamentalists. You cannot be a fundamentalist in this environment. The kids will walk out, and they have walked out. I'm watching them walk out. And there's one organization that I'm watching that has had that old kind of fundamentalist attitude, and they've broken from it, and I'm watching it happen, and they're growing because of it. They're growing because of it. Like, so that's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. And that's the reason I'm showing up, right? Like, do they want people to have access to food and shelter? Like, it's incredibly amazing how low my bar is now. Like, my bar is so fucking low, you guys. My standards are so fucking low because I've calibrated my expectation to the populace, right? And at this stage in the game, hey, maybe everybody should have food and shelter is a revolutionary idea. Just me, send me a direct message, okay? Let's talk in private. I don't necessarily know. Like, I'm pretty new to this group, so I don't want to. Like, I don't want to come in so strong. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to go and swagger with my cock out, being like, "Hi, I'm a YouTube guy. You should listen to what I have to say. Hey, I have good ideas. Everybody listen to me." I really, really don't want to do that, right? So I'm really like toe dip. Going in there, nice and slow and steady, and please send me a direct message, Joe, just me, because I'll definitely help you out with that. But I don't want to blast shit out into the internet and suddenly have shit happen because of it, right? Like I want to be very respectful of them, and they're just like, they've been doing this for a long time too. And they've been organizing for a long time too, and they've been making decisions and doing that kind of stuff. And I really, really do not want to override them and get the feeling, or give them the feeling that I'm coming in there to take over or something, right? So like, I have a very overbearing, loud, strong personality, and that's always been my concern politically, is that I go in there and everybody looks at me like, who's this fucking guy? Nope. No, thank you. I'm going to go in there nice and quiet. Be like, hey, how you doing? Right? I'm going to try to set up like a music thing. Try to get people out to some music. Right? If I can get 200 people out to see a music show, the music that I play here in the city of Toronto, I consider that to be a massive success. So, like, just me. Well, just me then. You could subscribe to my OnlyFans. No, I'm not surprised, Watson. Like, you're a very outspoken Trotskyist, right? Like, you're very outspoken. Like, I feel like, but I just feel like we can't stay isolated anymore. Like, we can't stand on our position of moral righteousness. We just cannot, right? Like, I don't care if they disagree with me on China, right? And they do, by the way. Like, I don't care if they disagree with me on Russia even, and their perception of the Ukraine war doesn't align with mine. I don't care. Like, I don't care. Do they want to lower the rent? Yes? Phenomenal. Phenomenal. Let's go. That puts them ahead of literally every organization. Like, literally every organization that exists in this culture, it puts them ahead of those groups. Right? And if you're pointing at other ones, being like, well, there's this party, and there's this party, and there's this party, it's like, okay, all the kids went here. Story's over. Like, I'm very pragmatic. I have a very practical outlook on this. So, that was a rabbit hole I didn't want to go down. Resist, good to see you. No, John, everyone needs to hang dead dogs on the lampposts, or what else is the revolution about? Weird, dude. Yikes. Yeah, OnlyFans is run by Zionists, yeah. Maybe there should be a communist free love only comrades. Only comrades, where the girls spout Marxist doctrine and history as they do the thing. And men, CH, huh? Dun 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 dun. Come on. Come on. Eric, you came in a little while ago and said something, and conservatives always talk about law and order. Yeah, it's always the other guy. Yeah, exactly. Good evening. Your story about the West telling the ICC being above the law reminds me of a story I heard today where Greg Abbott pardoned a murderer because he was anti-BLM. Yeah. right? Yeah, for sure. Hypernova over on Twitch. Just testing this. Can you see if I'm banned from another? Sure, bud. You're not banned. Congratulations. So, returning to the ICC. Statement from President Joe Biden on the warrant applications by the International Criminal Court. The ICC prosecutor's application for arrest warrants against Israeli leaders is outrageous. Outrageous! And let me be clear. Whatever this prosecutor might imply, there is no equivalence. None between Israel and Hamas. No, that's true. There is no equivalent between Israel and Hamas. Israel is a settler colonial project that is ethnically cleansing and creating a genocide against the Palestinian people, and Hamas are defending themselves against that. So you're right about that. There is no equivalence. We will always stand with Israel against threats to its security. And then there was a great one. Did I see it? Where was it? Yeah. Biden is dramatically out of touch with voters on Gaza. He may lose because of it. Yeah, you think? Jagmeet Singh has actually said the NDP welcomes the news that the ICC chief prosecutor is seeking arrest warrants against 5 senior Israeli and Hamas leaders. And you got to give credit where credit's due. The NDP is right on this one. It's actually releasing statements. It's actually saying that we should absolutely pursue criminal charges against Netanyahu. So good for you, Jagmeet. Good for you, NDP. You got one right one time. Israeli officials seek AP equipment and take down live shot of northern Gaza, citing new media law. So literally the response to this is to now just seize camera and broadcasting equipment. They're not going to let journalists do this anymore, right? They're desperate. They've lost the battle. Yet Singh and NDP back the current liberal government. Curious. Yeah. It's almost as though it's performative. Yeah. Biden is a planetary joke. Yeah, between his Tonya Harding tariffs and his neocon hypocrisy stance on ICC, he's done for it, for sure. Freedom of speech. Freedom of speech wants to change the subject over to Ukraine. What, do you have anything to say about Ukraine, my man? Joe Biden's re-election team is playing it cool. The Biden campaign has long been struggling at the president's fading polls, turning down opportunities to put him in front of voters, and generally doing their best to portray an air of confident nonchalance. The campaign's apparent lack of concern seems, or perhaps is meant to seem, like an expression of certainty in the outcome, that Biden will win re-election, and that it won't be close. They want us to think that they've got it in the bag. They do not. Biden is in no way guaranteed re-election, and all available information suggests that the contest will be close. Donald Trump has been narrowly but consistently ahead in national polls. A new data set released by the New York Times on the 13th of May found that Biden was trailing in 5 key swing states. I really got to tell you guys, okay? The way American politics, like the way the American, it's not politics, but the way the American electoral system works, is that it really does come down to these 5 states. And if Trump is winning in those 5 states, it's over. He's won, right? Like, and if it doesn't get better for Biden, so if you're living in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, and Pennsylvania, you get ready for the advertisements, guys. When the election season finally comes, get ready for those political ads. You're literally going to be watching anything. You're going to be watching literally anything. And every 5 minutes, it's going to be, Joe Biden cares about the American people. That's why he's done fucking nothing for you while murdering lots of Palestinian children. Paid for by the Trump administration. Like, in typical style, Joe Biden camps brushed this off. Drawing broad conclusions about the race based on results from one poll is a mistake. Looking at evidence and deciding evidence, right? Hey, freedom of speech over on Twitch. Basic manners are a bar, right? You have to understand and know basic manners to stay here, right? I have standards. So you're too stupid to talk to because you have no manners. right? Learn how to talk to people, and then you can come back and talk to me. Bye. What's driving this discontent among young voters and voters of color? Those cornerstones of Biden's coalition were that so key to his 2020 victory over Trump in places like Michigan and Pennsylvania? There are several factors, but one issue remains consistent in these voters' accounts of their dissatisfaction with Biden: his handling of Israel's assault on Gaza. The indiscriminate bombing and civilian massacres that have accompanied Israel's assault on Palestinians are a moral catastrophe that has shaken many American souls. Dude, what a line. The indiscriminate bombing and civilian massacres that have accompanied Israel's assault on Palestinians are a moral catastrophe that has shaken many American souls. Wow. An article that's actually acknowledging that we're human fucking beings, and that we have basic humanity, and that we have feelings and thoughts and empathy and compassion. Wow. Rare. Rare to see. The United Nations now estimates that more than 35,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israel since the start of the fighting. Since many human bodies are buried beneath the rubble of Gaza's bombed homes, schools, and hospitals, that number is likely to be a significant undercount. The dead are mostly women and children. More than 1,000 children in Gaza have lost limbs to Israel's war of revenge. If that figure cannot shake you into moral recognition, consider that many of those children have endured their amputations without anesthesia, since medicine, like food, has largely been prohibited from being delivered to Gaza by Israeli authorities. More than 75% of Gaza's population is now displaced, according to the UN. They have left homes, worlds, entire lives that they will never be able to retrieve. More than 1.5 million people are now sheltering in Rafah, the Strip's southernmost city, which Israel is currently bombing and is poised to invade. Many human rights advocates and experts in international law have described Israel's actions against Gazans as genocide. The death toll will keep climbing. Many voters believe, with good reason, that none of this would have happened without Biden's assent. Biden has continued to speak of Israel's attack on Palestinian civilians using the absurd language of self-defense. Yeah, what a fucking joke. He has insulted Jewish Americans and the memory of the Holocaust by invoking them to justify the slaughter, like the Germans are doing, by the way. And though his White House repeatedly leaks that he is privately dismayed by Israel's conduct of the war, he has done little to stop the flow of U.S. money and guns that support it. Even after the U.S. State Department issued a vexed and mealy-mouthed report on Israel's conduct, which nevertheless concluded that it was reasonable to assess that Israel was in violation of international humanitarian laws, the Biden administration has continued to fund these violations. That State Department report was published on the 10th of May. The Biden administration told Congress that it intends to move forward with a $1 billion arms sale to Israel. Okay, Israel likely broke the law, but not enough to change policy, is how one reporter summarized the administration's judgment. So what's the point of the report? I mean, in the simplest terms, what's the point? Meanwhile, Biden has expressed public disdain for the Americans, many of whom he needs to vote for him, who have taken to protest on behalf of Palestinian lives. Speaking with evident approval of the violent police crackdowns against anti-genocide student demonstrations, he said coolly, "Dissent must never lead to disorder." Wow. There's a phrase that you should put into some kind of like Star Warsian, some kind of ridiculous, like some kind of just have an emperor say, "Dissent must never lead to disorder," while he orders like the purges of people, right? Like that's perfect. Dude, Biden looks like Palpatine, right? Dissent, you know, Jack, dissent must never lead to disorder, you know, Jack. Come on. It is a creepy and nonsensical claim, almost chilling in its Orwellian ahistoricism. But Biden does not see the protest movement against his war support as a legitimate insistence of defense. Sorry, I'm just laughing about this. A legitimate instance of dissent, because he does not seem to understand concern for Palestinians as a legitimate moral claim. Well, someone over on Twitch, Quick Sticks Gaming, are you a tanky? I mean, liberals use the term tanky because they're too stupid to be adults, essentially. It's the weirdest thing to call somebody. Like, I'm not offended by it, but it's just weird. Like, I am a communist. This is not fake, right? The name is the Canadian Commie. That's not fake. But when people call me tanky, it's just like, you're the least serious person in the room. Sorry. But it's not incomprehensible to the voters he needs in order to win re-election. The genocide in Gaza has quickly become a moral rallying cry for many Americans, particularly young people and people of color. And the disgust at Israel's massacres is not confined to campus radicals. More than half of Americans now disapprove of Israel's handling of the Gaza war, according to a recent Gallup poll. Maybe that's one of the same polls the Biden campaign feels determined to ignore. But they shouldn't. The uncommitted movement that aimed to express displeasures at Biden's support for the attack on Gaza in the Democratic primary produced vote tallies higher than Biden's 2020 margin of victory in some states. Biden supporters are quick to point out that the alternative to Biden's re-election will be dramatically worse, both for Americans domestically and for those Palestinians who suffer as a result of U.S. policy. And they are right. Biden supporters are right too. That vote is a binary choice between the options available, and they are right that abstaining from voting hastens a statistically likely Trump victory. Yeah, because Trump was worse than Biden, right? Like, it's just like, all you have to do is ignore the genocide and you can pretend like Biden's the better choice. But these lesser of two evil arguments do not lessen the tax on the conscience that many anti-war Americans will feel when they consider whether to vote for Biden in spite of his support for the genocide in Gaza. And they are certainly not justifications for Biden's continued aid to Israel's war project. Rather, the extreme dangers of a second Trump presidency are all the more cause for Biden to abandon this support and to align himself with the moral cause championed by the voters he needs. On the issue of Gaza, Biden is dramatically out of touch with the voters he needs to win re-election. If he will not be moved by morality to stop his support of this war, he should be moved by his vulgar self-interest. Gaza is not a distant foreign conflict. It is an urgent moral emergency for large swaths of voters. Biden will lose those voters, and may indeed lose the election, if he does not cease his support of these atrocities. Biden has that rare opportunity in politics to help the country and himself by doing the right thing. But he must do so now. Both the Palestinian people and his own election prospects are running out of time. He's not going to do that. Come on. Come on, Moira. Moira. Come on, Moira. Moira Donegan, come on. Beautiful article, Moira, but come on. The grandstanding at the end, he's not going to do that. Right? He's not going to do that. He doesn't have a soul. He's a psychopath. Right? He just wants money for himself. That's all. Like, he knows that he's going to, like, he's made a lot of money doing this. He's going to continue making a lot of money doing this. That's what's going to happen. Jeez Louise. Ready for the Biden-Trump debate? Boy, am I ready for it. I am actually ready for it. But to get a civil war, a portion of the U.S. military has to break or attack another part. Yeah. The amputations of children with anesthesia, Israel, yeah. Brutal. Crypto has become a flashpoint in the U.S. election. Crypto bros. I know there's a genocide going on, but my Bitcoin. Just make sure to get Kamala and Johnson so Blinken is a successor. Everyone hates Blinken, yeah. Yeah, and then Biden just openly stated what's happening in Gaza is not a genocide. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just ridiculous. Omnicidal. Nothing is going to come of this ICC prosecutor. The ICC has no real power, and you're naive if you think so at a nation-state level. I mean, if that's true, my man, then why is it that the Biden administration signals it will support to push to sanction the ICC? Like, if it has no power, if it doesn't mean anything, if it's absolutely zero, then why not just ignore it? Right? Clearly the ICC has clout of some kind. Not military clout, right? But certainly, like, the ruling will matter. I know for me that if they actually do, I've said this all along, if they actually do send out arrest warrants, that's it, right? It's over. Ding dong, the witch is dead. It's finished. We're complete. Total completion. We get to stand here and say to these genocidal maniacs, so why do you disagree with the Hague? Why do you disagree with the ICC? What is it that is maintaining your belief while the ICC issues arrest warrants for obvious genocidal maniacs? Like, It's just going to make it so much easier. It's just going to make it so much easier. Guardian are perpetual shit libs, yeah. I like to describe the Guardian as panicking liberals. That's how I like to describe the Guardian. That these are the liberals who are seeing what's happening and are panicking about it, but aren't really willing to break, right? Aren't really willing to take the plunge. Aren't really willing to be like, oh yeah, we need a revolution for sure. Like, they're not there yet. Watson says, John, may I ask a favor? Sure, bud. Did you switch to I didn't switch to an iPhone. I may have switched my phone number. Just me. So, just send me an email, man. Like, my email is, like, right in the description. Okay. And in the midst of all of this, Putin and Xi pledge a new era and condemn the United States. This here's from Reuters, right? China's Xi Jinping and Russia's Vladimir Putin on Thursday pledged a new era of partnership between the two most powerful rivals of the United States, which they cast as an aggressive Cold War hegemon sowing chaos across the world. Xi greeted Putin on a red carpet outside the Great Hall of the People in Beijing, where they were hailed by marching People's Liberation Army soldiers, a 21-gun salute on Tiananmen Square, and children waving the flags of China and Russia. China and Russia declared a no-limits partnership on February 2022 when Putin visited Beijing just days before he sent tens of thousands of troops into Ukraine, triggering the deadliest land war in Europe since World War II. Xi, 70, and Putin, 71, signed a joint statement on Thursday about the new era that proclaimed opposition to the U.S. on a host of security issues and a shared view on everything from Taiwan and Ukraine to North Korea, and cooperation on new peaceful nuclear technologies and finance. The China-Russia relationship today is hard-earned, and the two sides need to cherish and nurture it, Xi told Putin. China is willing to jointly achieve the development and rejuvenation of our respective countries and work together to uphold fairness and justice in the world. Russia, waging war against NATO-supplied Ukrainian forces, and China, under pressure from a concentrated U.S. effort to counter its growing military and economic strength, increasingly have found common geopolitical cause. Xi has told Putin, the two have the chance to drive changes the world has not seen in a century, which many analysts see as an attempt to challenge a U.S.-led global order. Their governments, pushing back against perceived humiliations of the 1991 Soviet collapse and centuries of European colonial dominance of China, have sought to portray the West as decadent and in decline. You don't need to portray the West that way. That's what it is. With China challenging U.S. supremacy in everything from quantum computer and synthetic biology to espionage and hard military power. Like, it's happening, guys. Like, it's happening. Like, the system of capital is eating itself alive, and the rest of the world is explicitly allying against it. Explicitly allying itself against it. They are getting together in the same room and saying, we are bros. We are the two big dogs. There's the United States, and then there's the two of us. Let's buddy up. Fuck the U.S. What have I been saying all along? The United States is isolating itself. It's isolating itself, and it's going to continue to isolate itself. Bogdan Sirotchuk, a member of the Young Guard and Bolshevik Leninists, has been framed up and imprisoned by the Zelensky regime for speaking out about the imperialist nature of the war. I mean, at this point, is this a secret? I gotta continuously remind myself. You know what? I do. I have to continuously remind myself. Just because I'm talking about it all the time, and just because the people I'm listening to are telling the truth about what's going on in Ukraine, doesn't mean that the vast majority of the people understand that, right? That's the whole reason why I'm doing this channel, is to explain this and to explain it again and to explain it again. With the small unlikely chance that this fellow who I banned for being so rude to me, we're talking about Ukraine now. See, look, it happened. All you had to do is be patient and not be an asshole. Look, the Ukraine war was a war that was started by the Americans and NATO, right? They couped Ukraine. They overthrew the government. They started a war in the Donbass. And that Russia was forced to respond to it, right? Any nation would respond to an open war on their borders, right? It took Putin forever to do it. He wanted to do diplomacy. He wanted to figure out other ways, right? His own people finally were just like, you got to do this, bud. Like, the idea that we're all supposed to demonize Putin because he responded to a war on his borders is an odd one to me indeed. There's an article at the very top of the WSWS titled "Stop the Political Frame-Up of Ukrainian Socialist Bogdan Syutyuk." It goes into the Nazi-like lies that are being employed. Yeah, dude. Nazis, dude. Just like World Socialist Website. Let's do this, man. Let's do this. You've convinced me. Yeah. Like, the only reason I was a touch resistant when you started talking about it is I'm like sitting here being like, yeah. you know what I mean? Like, yeah, we know. Right. On April 25th, 2024, Bogdan Syutyuk, farewell, the 25-year-old leader of the Young Guard of Bolshevik Leninists, the YGBL, a socialist Trotskyist organization active in Ukraine, Russia, and throughout the former USSR, was arrested by the notorious State Security Service of the fascistic Zelensky regime, the SBU. Bogdan is being held in atrocious conditions in a high-security prison in the city of Nikolaev, which is located in southern Ukraine. The International Committee of the Fourth International, the World Trotskyist Movement, which with the YGBL is politically affiliated, has finally obtained the actual documents in which the SBU presents its charges against Bogdan Syutyuk. These documents, which form the basis of his detention, make absolutely clear that Bogdan is the victim of a monstrous state frame-up. The allegations concocted by the SBU are a crude combination of lies, obvious fabrications, and political absurdities. This is exactly the shit they're going to do to us, by the way. Like, you think that the death cult is just going to be like, oh, that's happening overseas. We're going to act that way to people overseas. Yeah, we won't do that over here. We're definitely not going to do the same thing we did during the purges, right? We're definitely not going to do the same thing during the blacklisting era, right? During the McCarthy era. We're definitely not going to assassinate political leaders. We're not going to do any of that, no. Moreover, the documents submitted by the SBU are directed not only against Bogdan. They are nothing less than a declaration of war against all left-wing and socialist opposition to the Zelensky regime, and specifically, the International Committee of the Fourth International and its public organ, the World Socialist Website. This time, it's personal. I mean, but we've always known this about Zelensky, right? He's banned political parties. He banned literally, like, centrist parties. Like, the whole thing, like, if Zelensky's not a Nazi, he's definitely working for Nazis, right? Like, he's definitely working for them. The central allegation levied at Bogdan is that he is guilty of high treason. The basis of this charge is that Bogdan has been, for the past 2 years, engaged in the preparation of publications commissioned by representatives of a Russian propaganda and information agency, the World Socialist Website. The World Socialist Website is denounced as an instrument of an active information war against Ukraine being waged by Russia, which, quote, uses the so-called left-wing propagandists and their information platforms to discredit the support of Ukraine by international partners, justify Russia's armed aggression against Ukraine, accusing Western countries of creating conditions under which Russia was forced to launch the so-called special military operation, fomenting wars in Ukraine by providing it with weapons, etc. As a result, they are used by Russia to systematically convey pro-Kremlin narratives to the population of Ukraine and Ukraine's allied countries. Since the beginning of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the World Socialist Website has regularly published articles in various languages aimed at discrediting Ukraine and representatives of governments around the world for assisting Ukraine in its fight against the aggressor state. The ICFI's opposition to the US-NATO war in Ukraine is an essential element of its political program. deeply rooted in the socialist and internationalist principles of the Trotskyist movement. The attempt of the Ukrainian regime to portray this opposition as an instrument of Putin's propaganda network is as viciously mendacious as it is politically absurd. The intransient opposition of the International Committee of the Fourth International to the Putin regime, which emerged as a consequence of the Stalinist bureaucracy's final betrayal of socialism. Dude, like, I love you Trotskyists, okay? I love you guys. Like, I love your passion. I really do. I love how much you're, like, really, really, like, you are the guys that show up. Every single time I go somewhere, it's the Trotskyists. Every single time, I'm just like, oh, Trotskyists. There's a bunch of Trotskyists here. Holy cow, look at all these Trotskyists. Check out all the Trotskyists. They're the ones waving the banners and fighting the good fight and all this kind of stuff. You just gotta, like, be able to write something without this shit in it. Like, really, you gotta be able to write stuff. Like the entire rest of the world is looking at this going, like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? Like, and then when the can gets opened and you guys go on the big diatribe, everybody just goes like this. Everybody, right? Nobody's going like, oh, wow, what an interesting... Literally everybody is just like, okay, what's going on? Okay. Like, it is my major critique of the Trotskyist movement. Like, you gotta let this one go, you guys. You do. You gotta let it go. Like, your guy lost. Sorry. Okay, where are we going? True to its fascist character, the Ukrainian regime is operating on the basis of the well-known precept of Hitler and his propaganda minister, Joseph Goebbels. The bigger the lie, the more readily it will be believed. In this particular case, the Zelensky regime seems to believe that the scale of the SBU lies are of such a magnitude that they will simply overwhelm the thinking public. It thus expects that public opinion will accept that the Putin regime is directing the work of the WSWS, which the SBU indictment describes as an online publication of the World Trotskyist Movement, the International Committee of the Fourth International, and its affiliated sections in the socialist equality parties around the world, which covers the main socio-political problems around the world, from the position of revolutionary opposition to the capitalist market system, with the aim of establishing world socialism through socialist revolution. Boy, this just goes on, eh? Yeah, I'm not going to read the whole thing. No, I'm not going to read this whole thing, dude. That's huge. Way too huge. I'll be doing that for the rest of the thing. Let's just get to the conclusion. The International Committee of the Fourth International calls for a global campaign to demand the immediate release of Bogdan from prison. The fight for Bogdan's freedom must be taken up by workers, students, and all those who are committed to the defense of democratic rights and opposed to the escalation of imperialist wars that, unless stopped, threaten humanity with a nuclear catastrophe. Join the fight. Circulate the statement. It's lengthy. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But, I mean, that's true to form, man. That's true to form. Trotskyists love this shit. They do. Like, I'm sorry, guys. Like, you guys love it. There's something about it. And this is not me hating on you. It's just an observation, right? Like, I'm reading Leon Trotsky's My Life right now. And I'm straight up, dude. I'm like literally like, bro, like you need an editor. Like, bro, you need an editor. To be fair, he is writing about his own life. So it's like, okay, you know, I'm the one reading it, you know. But just like verbose, very wordy, very, very dense and lengthy, where maybe perhaps it doesn't need to be, you know. Maybe perhaps it doesn't need to be. So, anyway, love the Trotskyists, man, love it. No, honestly, like, it's just, yeah, and exactly, of course he wrote that in exile, no one else around, yeah, exactly, dude. But it's not like his other writing isn't like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, everybody else is releasing like 30-page pamphlets. Trotsky's like, this 350-page document. No. If you don't read it, then you're not as smart as me. Yes. For I am Leon Trotsky. Yes. I shouldn't make fun of Trotsky, dude. Trotsky, highly important revolutionary figure. No doubt. No doubt. Okay. I don't want to get into the Trotsky thing. I really don't. But like, look, these stories are extremely important. And the reason why these stories are extremely, extremely, extremely important is that if they do it, like, they're going to do it to us, right? They're going to do this shit to us. That when finally the rubber meets the road and when finally we get into a position where we might actually be considered a legitimate threat, we might actually be considered something serious, they're going to do this shit to us, right? And also, doing this to a guy like Bogdan shows you how weak the Zelensky regime actually is, okay? Like, really think about that. This kid is 25 years old. He is the leader of the Young Guard of Bolshevik Leninists, right? A socialist Trotskyist organization in Ukraine that's active in Ukraine. So it's not even a political party, right? It's just a leftist organization that, near as anybody can tell, is just spreading information about the Ukrainian war into the public. And it just so turns out, you guys, that the truth happens to align with some of the things that Putin has actually said. It just so happens that NATO flooded Ukraine with weapons. It just so happens, right? Silva, the conservative hero, ooh, good start. Nice, strong Brazilian name, Silva. The conservative hero. Hey, Biden has withdrawn Cuba from the list of terrorism cooperating countries, which it was then classified. Terrorist authoritarian state. So this is a win. Yeah, you bet. Right? Like, it took forever. Right? Oh, the United States finally decided that it was going to stop beating the shit out of Cuba for 30 seconds. Cool. Like, Cuba is in an interesting position right now. I feel like the United States is finally putting two and two together. Yeah, he's saying as if it's a bad thing. Of course, he's conservative, right? So it's a loss for conservatives, right? Because that's how he thinks about these things, right? Like, it's a win or a loss. It's not an empire releasing its clutches or a people coming to their senses. Like, the whole situation in Cuba is just a disaster, right? It's a disaster for the Americans. This is what's so, like, blisteringly insane to me about how America thinks about the rest of the world. What we're going to do is bomb the shit out of everybody and everybody will love us for it, right? Like, just this absolute insistence that what we should do is project nothing but fear, terror, and decimation to every populace in the world, and then everybody will turn around and love us for it. Like, no. And so the only reason they're actually doing this, finally, literally after like 80 years of repression and devastation, the only reason they're finally doing it is because Cuba is starting to trade with China. That's what it's going on. Right? That Cuba is starting to trade with China, and the United States understands that it can't stop that from happening. And so what it's trying to do is normalize relationships with Cuba so Cuba won't trade with China and it'll instead turn around and trade with it. Because it is actually in Cuba's interests to trade with America. It's easier to trade with America. A lot easier to trade with America. They should have been happening for 60 years. They should have been trading with America. Why? Why haven't they? Because everybody, like, the United States doesn't want to have a functioning communist model off of its coast. And so it needs to isolate it and make sure it doesn't have access to the world market. Well, it's getting access to the world market. China is sending boats to Cuba. And America can't stop them. America can't stop them. So the choice is, well, we better start trading with Cuba. At least let's get the benefits of trading with Cuba ourselves. Then just allow trade to happen with China. Silva continues. We trust Trump. Oof. 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 Because Trump would never do such a thing. Oof. Just oof, man. Like, yeah, okay. Instead, he would make it more strict and tighten the embargo so that Cuba would do what Americans wish for, a democratic state. Okay. 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 Oh my god. Imagine believing that, like, what we'll do is crush them more, and then they'll do what we tell them! We'll crush them more, and then they'll listen to us! Ah! Like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, no wonder the rest of the world is abandoning you dumbasses. No wonder the entire rest of the world is looking at one another going like, yeah, we gotta get the fuck away from these psychos. Oh, yeah. We gotta get away. We gotta get away from these fucking psychopaths. Absolutely. These guys are outright explicitly saying out loud in front of everybody that the strategy for moving into the world is to dominate more. Do more domination. Forget about the fact that we've literally been bombing the entire world for 80 years. Forget about, like, Iraq, Libya, Afghanistan, Iran. Forget about all of that. Forget about the coups throughout Latin America. Forget about Pinochet. Forget about any of that. No, that doesn't matter. We need to go harder. We need more. And then people will really start to listen to what we have to say. You guys are so fucking stupid. It's astounding you can make it out of bed. It's shocking to me that you have figured out how to open this app. The fact that you're speaking in sentences is just congratulations, well done. Because your thought and strategy for how to interact with the world is let's dominate people until they do what they're told. I can't think of a better failing strategy. There's a reason why America's in decline. There's a reason why Biden or Trump or whoever is going to crater your country directly into the ground. And you're going to stand around looking at yourself being like, what? I got betrayed by a grifter? Yeah, you got betrayed by a grifter again. Just like the last time, and just like the time before that, and just like the time before that, and the time before that. Like, Cuba, if you were to do that to Cuba, by the way, Cuba would just start trading with China. What are you going to do? Huh? What are you going to do? You going to start a war with China over it? Your economy would collapse overnight. Like, what are you going to do? So the only reason the Biden administration is doing it is for the same reason the Trump administration would do it, which is that, well, we might as well get the benefits of trade with these guys. You'll see! The world will look much better with Trump's next year's election. I mean, the world will look better, but it won't be because of Trump. It'll be because Putin and Xi pledge a new era and condemn the United States. That's why. That's why the world's going to look better. Because rational states are beginning to take over. Trump would not betray us. Oh my fucking god, dude. Dude, like, Trump is a grifter, man. Like, Trump doesn't give a fuck about you. He doesn't care. Like, he really, really doesn't care. I'm always astounded when I run into these pro-Trump guys. It's like, you actually think that Trump likes you, or cares about you, or thinks well of you, or even wants you to do well. Like, it's amazing. Like, it's amazing. He's just a snake oil salesman. He's literally just standing in front of the world, saying whatever he needs to say to be elected president. Yeah, could you define those communists you're afraid of? Why don't we get into it? Let's do it, Silva. You seem to have an idea of what communism is. But you're walking around listening to a snake oil salesman pitch you the biggest possible grift. I cannot believe these people exist. Like, this is the part about reality, is that, like, I'll just be bumping along, thinking everything's going all right. Okay, everything's fine. Just yesterday, I went to the beach, had a lovely time on the beach, went and got some $30 breakfast. Jesus Christ. I remember when eggs and toast used to be $6.99 with a cup of coffee, no less. $30. I went down to the beach. I went and bought a new pillow for my little pug because he had torn up his pillow, and so he needed a new pillow because he's a precious little guy and he deserves everything he wants. And then I also bought a new satchel for myself so that I could carry books and things. I didn't have a side satchel. Now I do. Yes. Big success is. Feeling good about myself. And then just, like, coming, like, face to face with somebody who's just like, Trump will solve all our problems. Like, nah, brah. Like, hard no. The guy who ran the game show The Apprentice is not going to solve all your problems. Like, pretty hard no. Hard pass. Oh. Andrew, good to see you, Andrew. Look at what your leadership's doing, Andrew. Look at this. Fucking finally some rational actors on the stage. Oh. I needed a good laugh. Thanks for being here, Silva. Right? Thanks for being here, bud. I gotta tell you, Silva, I'm really looking forward to your next comment. I'm here for it. I'm hanging on for it, because boy am I looking forward to it. Just absolutely. I actually do hope. I'm a little excited. I'll be a little disappointed, actually, if Silva does not tell us about what communism is. Oh, Silva. Come on, Silva. If Biden dies, who would take power? Kamala Harris. She's the vice president. So, that's the power. But I mean, not that Biden or the Democrats actually have power. Like, the United States is primarily run by a combination of the military-industrial complex. You've got lots of arms dealers, right? So Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, all these guys. And then the tech bros, right? They play. They're part of it, right? So your Elon Musks, your Bill Gates, your Zuckerbergs, right? And then you have the financial sector, which is like BlackRock and Vanguard and these guys. And this combination of institutions have all coalesced together in order to take over the political apparatus. So that's both the Democrats and the Republicans pay fealty to this kind of conglomerate feudal structure, right? That you have, like, the military-industrial complex, right? Which is poised to take over America, by the way. That's sort of what I think has already kind of happened. It just hasn't been official, right? Because the political apparatus, the electoral apparatus is still playing ball and still going along with it. That'll change eventually. And the tech bros have so much money and wealth and power that they can basically just shove anything they want through. And then you have, and then the financial sector. And so politics, quote unquote politics in the United States is basically just these entities negotiating how to pilfer and despoil the planet and how to make profits for themselves the fastest and to negotiate amongst themselves about how to do that the best. Right, so you'll have, like, Elon Musk lying to everybody saying we're going to Mars when really what he's doing is working with the military-industrial complex to militarize space. You'll have Elon Musk working with the financial sector in order to, like, we're going to build a new company for electric cars when really it's just a grift, right, to shuffle money around and con a bunch of investors out of their savings accounts. So it's like, it's and resting atop that, technically, and it is technically, right, resting atop this sort of group of feudal rulers and kingdoms that now exists, because capitalism is dead, it's been long dead, it's just a zombie, it's just feudal kingdoms now, and resting atop that is this old edifice, which is the electoral system in America, where there's a blue party and a red party, but they both work for these guys. and they don't work for you. They never did. They don't care about you. The only reason they're talking to you at all is because technically, in the way the system actually works, individual politicians need to convince you to vote for them in order to get power for themselves. But so what that does is it turns all politics into vanity projects because they don't act in your interests. Trump doesn't, Biden doesn't, none of them do. Ted Cruz doesn't, Mitch McConnell doesn't, none of them. 0%. Absolutely nobody. Bernie Sanders doesn't, AOC doesn't, nobody in the apparatus does. They all work for the military-industrial complex, the financial sector, and the tech sector. That's the only people they care about. They do not give a shit about you. That it's all acting. They're just acting. It's WWE performance. And you're sitting here saying, but it's real. It's not. It's all fake. It's just total nonsense. Right? Like, Princeton has done a report on this. The apparatus is not responding to us. We have no reason to listen to them, follow them, or vote for them at all. At all. 0%. We should not give two shits about what these guys have to say, think, or spread into our environment outside of how it threatens us. Because that's what this is now. There are no laws in America, only threats. And I agree with you. Biden doesn't care about it. Trump doesn't give a fuck about you, dude. Cruz does not give a fuck about you. Mitch McConnell doesn't give a fuck about you. Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Smith, Lauren Boebert, they do not care about you, bro. Like, they are grifting you. They will abandon you. I mean, for God's sakes, Trump had a term, and all he did with his term is give a tax cut to the rich. That's it. That's all he did, is he turned around and he went, hey, these billionaires who already got big tax breaks. And you know what the result of that policy has been? Now you've got people like Jeff Bezos doesn't pay taxes. 0% tax rate on that guy. He doesn't pay taxes. Like, officially now. No taxes for Jeff Bezos. Like, you're paying a 30%, 40%, 50% tax rate on your $30,000 you make a year, working wherever the fuck you work, right? Jeff Bezos, nothing. Trump's gonna help us. Trump's gonna help us. DM, good to see you. Good evening, John. Capitalism is designed to maximize profit. That is all. Everything else is a means to that end. If hurting other people means bigger profits, they will hurt other people. As long as they don't face the same consequences, what do they care? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Watson, a tax cut in 2017 and that little largest upward transfer of wealth in the history of mankind. Yep, in April 2020. Yeah, Watson, come on. Don't hyper-focus on the little things. Come on, man. Come on. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the largest upwards transfer of wealth in the history of mankind. Yeah, that's a little thing. But look. Oh. Dewey, you know what? Dewey, that's fine. You come on in here. When and how will the revolution happen? Look, man, it's not going to be we're storming the halls and we took Canada or the United States over, okay? Let's just like straight real talk, okay? Straight real talk. When empires fall into decay, right, they break apart. That's what we should be expecting to see. I don't think that we are going to be able to prevent that from happening, especially in the United States where the country is so divided, right? Like if communists took power in the White House, if they just like stormed the White House and took over and said we're communists, we're taking over, it would destroy the country. The country would split apart. If the fascists did the same thing, the country would break apart. And if nothing happens, if no communists or no fascists do that, then the thing falls apart anyway. Because that's how the system of capital is designed. It's to fall apart. So the thing's going to fall apart. So the thing for you to do, okay, Dewey, the thing for you to do is to organize locally. And when I say locally, I mean literally your block. Like literally the people in your building. You're going to have to talk to people, Dewey. Right? I know, bro. You're going to have to talk to people. All right? And it's through that process that revolutionary energy is going to come about. Because you're going to find those disenfranchised people. Yeah. union organizer, right? That's a good start. Try to find a communist revolutionary movement. That's a better start because many of the unions are part of the capitalist apparatus. Like Dewey, I'm not saying this to demoralize you, okay? I'm saying this to just calibrate your expectations and put you in a place of reality so that you are demoralization proof or you'll be more resilient, okay? We are starting from scratch, okay? We are starting from zero. That people like me and other people have been trying to work through the system for our whole lives. Whole lives we're working through that system, right? The political system, the union system, social groups, right? Working through, and very steadily what I have discovered and what many people have discovered is that all of these are frauds. That they are bought by the system of capital and have designed themselves to destroy the society. That the entire apparatus is structured to destroy itself. And so joining these organizations is only, and it is like trying to lasso a rope around a collapsing building in order to keep it up. Little Red Book, yep, Mal. I've recently gone through a lot of Mao's stuff and a lot of Mao's history, so I've got that's all really fresh in my head right now. Although I haven't read the Little Red Book, I'll be frank, okay? But I've definitely gone through a lot of the history, and I definitely need to sit down and read the Little Red Book. I'm going through Trotsky right now, and the only reason I'm going through Trotsky right now is because I'm interacting with more Trotskyists in person. So I feel like I should brush up on my Trotsky and be a little bit more, you know. So it's not just a lecture, you know, just so I can hold a conversation. So the thing to do is find local groups that are explicitly revolutionary and explicitly anti-capitalist, and if you can't find one, then it's you. And that's just the hard truth. Then it's you. And you're going to have to come up with strategies for your own local group. I recommend things like growing food. I recommend things like creating mutual aid systems. Try to do as much internal trade in your society as possible to decouple it from the financialization sector, right? So literally, like, I have a bag of rice, you have a bag of corn, swap. Like, try to start doing as much as that, but normalize that behavior, right? Maybe see if you can convince somebody to set up a market, like a mutual trade. A really cool initiative that I've seen people doing is doing like clothing swaps. So like I'll bring a shirt and I'll grab a shirt and I'll leave the shirt that I brought behind. So it's like clothing swap. And so everybody in the neighborhood just swaps the clothing they all have, right? Which I think is a brilliant initiative. I think that kind of thing is really cool. Then everybody gets new fashion and new updated kind of stuff. And so, but we have to really start thinking about it on that level. And because that's the only way it's actually going to work. Like, the system of capital is not going to allow us into its institutions. It will start murdering us if it comes down to it, like it did in the past. So, Silva, because I'm loving your commentary here, Silva. It's beautiful. Remember how back in the days Trump would go to North Korea? This is actually something that is true of Trump. I'll be honest, is that Trump was absolutely willing to go to contentious areas and contentious places, like North Korea, and like do business, right? Just shake people's hands. It was one of the things that made me look at him and go like, oh, that's interesting. And I think it's a big reason why the system of capital hates him, right? Because he's not really playing ball along the lines that the military and the Cold War lines. He's not playing ball along those Cold War lines. And so the system doesn't like that. The system wants to keep isolating North Korea, wants to keep isolating the threat of communism, all of that kind of stuff. And Trump doesn't care. Because Trump, he just wants to be the president and make a lot of money for himself. And we sure know that the war in Ukraine wouldn't have happened. Meh. Woulda, coulda. Meh. That the war in Ukraine started in 2014 with the coup of the, like, I think you're putting too much stock in the office of the presidency. That the office of the presidency doesn't have as much power as you think it does, right? That technically it might, but the military-industrial complex is an incredibly powerful organization that was absolutely fomenting war in Ukraine. And, like, Trump was not going to stop that, right? Like, so... Here, hold on. Trump... I just want to get my years exactly correct. Trump's presidency. Trump's president. He was elected 2017 to 2021. So the Donbass war was already in swing when Donald Trump was in office, right? Donald Trump takes office in 2017. The Donbass war starts in 2014, 2015, right? The coup of the coup in Ukraine had happened under Obama, and Trump basically just did nothing about it because it didn't matter, right? It didn't matter to him. That who cares? Ukraine's in a war, great. Oh, Putin, like Trump is in power when Vladimir Putin is in negotiations to end that war, right? This narrative, right? Putin and Trump are conservative. They would have a good talk, right? Like here's what the conversation sounds like. Okay, hey there, Vladdy. I want to make a bunch of money. How do I make a bunch of money working with you? And Vladimir goes, well, you could invest in some Russian infrastructure. And Donnie goes, good idea. We'll do just that. Thanks. Good talk. Like, Donald Trump doesn't care about America. Like, I really, really think that this is what needs to penetrate more than anything else, okay? Like, really, it shocks me to see people who genuinely think that this guy gives two shits at all about America, right? These guys have abandoned the concept of America. They do not care about America. They care about their own wealth and own power and own prestige. That is all they care about. Here's a good video to show. I'm just going to show this video. U.S. Navy cost to fire different weapons, right? We're just gonna casually spend $1,500, $3,000 just shooting a couple of bullets. The 15-inch caliber Mark 15, MK38, 25 millimeter machine gun. Like $10,000 they just spent. Over $10,000. One missile, $1 million. Rocket, $11 million. More like $12 million. Like, the United States military is the most powerful force. Donald Trump is not going to change the trajectory of what the military wants done. Like, there was a coup. Like Silva, like with all of the love I have in my heart, okay? Do you not understand that America has undergone a coup? That the American system, the electoral system, is no longer in the hands of the people. That you voting for Trump... Silva, okay, I'm going to explain it this way. All the love I have in my heart, okay? Because you seem like a diehard Trump guy, okay? You need to hear this, okay? What you are doing is pretending like the WWE is a sport. That is what you are currently doing, okay? That when Hulk Hogan comes out, right, you're booing and you're throwing your shit, or maybe you love him and you're cheering and you're doing your shit, right? And then Andre the Giant comes out, right, and you boo or you cheer, right? And then they put on a show that you are insisting is real, right? You're voting for Andre, And the outcome of this is a real outcome between two people who are engaging in a sport. And when the show ends and you go home, Andre and the Hulk Hogan, shake each other's hands, say, "Good show today," and they both get paid by Vince McMahon. That's what is happening. And you are engaging in the system of electoral politics as though there is such a thing as a positive outcome for you, which there isn't, because the system no longer responds to you. Like, unless you're a billionaire, the system no longer responds to you. It's not going to lower your taxes. It's not going to increase. It's not going to suddenly give you health care. It's not going to increase your benefits. It's not going to do anything for you, right? That if anything, it's going to strip everything away, and it's going to continuously lead to the decline, which is exactly what's happening across the West. Like, it is just a show, right? That's why I don't really talk that much about it. Like, the Trump-Biden phenomenon is interesting from a cultural perspective, but from a material outcome, there is no difference between these two people. Like, zero. No difference. I think the difference is just a silly haircut. That's it. Do you think communism will ever happen? Nobody thinks about it outside the small web bubble. I mean, bud. Communism, like, once you step out of America, right? Like, once you step out of America and you look at what's going on across the rest of the entire world, communism is a subject that gets a lot of discussion, right? Yeah. Simply put, the Communist Party of China under Xi or the BJP under Modi or United Russia are far more stable systems than U.S. oligarchy. Like, one of the largest economies on the planet right now is run by the Communist Party of China, right? Yeah, I mean, will we ever achieve actual communism? What will that look like? Question marks loom, right? Question marks loom. Yeah. But it's a project. It's an unfolding project that we commit to. Like the vision I have of communists. Okay. Silva, let's wade into this territory, because I think this will be good for you. I think this will be let's banish some stuff. Let's get our feet on the ground a little bit more, okay? Silva writes, the vision I have of communists are like mad people that are highly sensitive and triggered and extremists, like paranoid conspiracy. So it really pays to remember, okay, that people who are going into communism and to pursuing communism are fighting against severe repression. So if you look at the history of communist movements, like the rise of the Soviets, for example, they're fighting against the Tsars, right? They're fighting against the Nazis. And what can often happen, right? And what can often happen is that capitalist systems will decontextualize these events, decontextualize what's going on, and then pretend as though this is how these people act normally, right? Like, if you caught a picture or a small clip of a person, like, screaming at the top of their lungs and just wailing on the street, and just said, this is how they are, and that was the basis for your thinking about that person, without recognizing that maybe and perhaps that's happening in a context, then you're always going to have bad opinions about people. Like, perhaps that person just lost a child, right? And capitalists do this to communists all the time. I'll give you the clearest example of this exact phenomenon that I'm talking about that I've recently read about. It's fresh in my mind. The Great Leap Forward, right? Mao's Great Leap Forward. Westerners cannot stop talking about Mao's Great Leap Forward and how it was a total failure. It didn't achieve its industrialization goals. It caused a famine. It hurt a bunch of people, right? So what they're doing is decontextualizing the Great Leap Forward from the Vietnam War, right? They're saying, oh, communism can't work because look at what Mao did with the Great Leap Forward. They just did that thing in a vacuum because they thought it would advance their economy faster. And but once you put it within the context of the Vietnam War, a war of aggression created by America, right? You can see really clearly that what Mao was doing is responding to an enormous threat of aggression from a nuclear superpower that outright was threatening to use nuclear bombs in the region. Dwight D. Eisenhower literally said we should nuke China. In 1950, you can Google that shit. That's easy information to find. Like, China is doing the Great Leap Forward and is acting in the way that it's acting in the face of enormous aggression coming from a nuclear superpower, which is the United States. So, of course it seems hysterical, and of course it seems like it has this quality to it, of course. Because the people that are doing it are dealing with fucking Godzilla. But if you decontextualize Godzilla, if you just eliminate Godzilla and pretend like that doesn't exist, then you can make whatever claim you like. And my chat is really banging on about the idea of social justice warriors. This is another phenomenon that exists in America, okay? Which is that you think that Democrats are leftists, right? Like, correct me if I'm wrong on that statement, okay? I don't want to speak for you. You think that Democrats are leftists, right? To the entire rest of the world, including Canada, incidentally, where I'm from, the Democrats would be a firmly right-wing party. That the Democrats are easily just a conservative right-wing party on the political spectrum, right? It's just that the discourse, what we call the Overton window, right? But the discourse, like the position of allowable discourse, has shifted so dramatically to the left, so dramatically to the right. I guess from your perspective I should go like that. It doesn't matter. It's shifted so dramatically to the right that even the Democrats are now right-wing, with the Republicans being... I mean, do I say it? Like, the Republicans are fascists. Like, pretty nakedly at this point. Like, they haven't coalesced under an official fascist banner, but their ideology is fascist. And so within that spectrum, you can take a look at somebody like AOC or Bernie Sanders and think, wow, what a bunch of, like, they call themselves progressives, right? What a bunch of leftists. These guys are moderate conservatives, right? In Canada, Bernie Sanders would be considered a moderate conservative. That's how far to the right your politics is, and how far to the right the society has gone. Is that you think that conservatives are leftists? Like, here in Canada, it was conservatives that put in the education system. It's conservatives that put in many of the systems that, like, it was a conservative prime minister, Stephen Harper, that did the child care benefit, that basically created a basic income for children in this country, which has remained in place. Your Democrats removed that legislation. That you did have something like a child care benefit in America, and it was the Democrats that removed it. So our conservatives are further to the left than your Democrats. So the whole meanwhile, meanwhile, communists, hello, how you doing, get purged from the society. We're not permitted to speak. You understand? We're not allowed at the table. And the reason why we're not allowed at the table is because our analysis of America is so accurate that if the populace of America began to recognize its accuracy, it could lead to the overthrow of the capitalist system. And the capitalists cannot have that. The capitalists have shown over and over and over again its willingness to murder huge groups of people. The Vietnam War was explicitly fought to staunch the spread of communism, threats of nuclear bombardment of communist nations. The Nazi invasion of the Soviet Union was done explicitly to defeat communism. The first concentration camps that Adolf Hitler erected were communist concentration camps, and he did so with the help of people like Henry Ford. So, communists are not allowed at the table. So, I'd be surprised, frankly, if you've ever in your life interacted with a single communist. I'd be very, very surprised if at any moment in your entire life you've had even a single conversation with somebody who's actually a communist. Because it's likely, I think, that you're interacting with people who are being destroyed by the state, who are being abandoned by the state, who are experiencing massive growing poverty, who are experiencing desperation, enslavement, destruction of their communities, and then saying, wow, they're complaining so loudly about how the state is destroying them, they must be communists. When in reality, I think many of these people don't actually have a foundational basis for the things that they believe. I think that people are just like, society should improve somewhat. You know? I think that's basically where most quote-unquote leftists in America are currently. Maybe society shouldn't be so bad. Maybe we should have things that the entire rest of the world also have. Like, the fact that America does not have a universal healthcare system is an embarrassment. It's an international embarrassment. It's a global embarrassment. Like, you should have a universal healthcare system. And the idea that there is anyone in America that is standing up fighting against that idea at this point is actually scary for the rest of the world. The entire rest of the world is looking at America as it is actively on purpose plunging itself into fascism while celebrating it. While literally celebrating how it's impoverishing people and putting people into medical debt and ensuring that people don't have access to health care. Like, your country literally celebrates it. That's very, very, very terrifying to the rest of us. We look at that and are very scared of that because we're well aware that the way you treat your own citizens is certainly how you're going to treat us. You're definitely going to look at us with our healthcare systems and think, how do I remove those healthcare systems and insert worthless capitalists in order to impoverish people? You're definitely going to think that way. And so what's the entire rest of the world doing in response to this kind of crazed American ideology that's taking over? Well, they're uniting against it. That the entire rest of the world is standing up and looking at the insanity that is unfolding in America and is saying, we have to isolate the United States. We have no alternative. That China has said it over and over and over and over again. So has Russia. We would love to peacefully develop and peacefully trade with America. We believe that is in everybody's self-interests, for everybody to simply peacefully develop through trade and through mutual growth and respect with one another. America can't do it. It can't play ball. That America is falling into a deep fascist place which makes a lot of sense considering America's colonial history, considering America's history of eradicating the First Nations people, enslaving the populations of Africa and Latin America, and essentially enacting systems of ethnic cleansing and genocide. Like, America has never gotten away from that. It's always what it's been, and the rest of the world sees it. And so America is going to go into an extremely major decline, that it will not be able to pull itself out of. Because the people who are in control, Biden and Trump, but really the military-industrial complex, the financial sector, and the tech sector, they are completely disincentivized personally to actually prevent the decline from happening, because they're running on the false theory of the profit motive. They're running on the false theory, the false capitalist idea that what we should do, everybody should hyper-focus on themselves and money in a chaotic system of the free market, and that this will somehow benefit the populace. And it simply doesn't. It simply doesn't work. That this idea that's been put out by America into the world can no longer be considered a rational science. It is a religious ideology. The worship of money, the worship of the self, and the worship of chaos is a religious ideology that is held by most of the populace at this point. And it's going to destroy the society. It's going to destroy the culture. It's going to destroy America. And the primary reason why America is... You think America will decline? It absolutely will decline. It is already in a decline. And Silva, it's going to decline, and it's going to decline like this. Okay? And really, when I tell you this, it's in my view, it's 1 + 1 = 2. Okay? Like, I'm not prophesying anything. If I showed you a picture of a building and the building looked like this, it's not prophecy to say it's going to go like that. If you asked me, hey, what do you think's going to happen if I put this metal fork into an electric socket, and I said you're going to shock yourself, it's not a prophecy to say that you get shocked. So, since World War II, all right. So I'm so glad that you're still here, Silva. I really am. You've actually been very polite. I can tell you're a decent person. I really can tell that of you, because I talk to a lot of people who, and I've really hit you with some stuff. I laughed for a long period of time. I've hit you with some stuff, and you're still here and you're still being polite. I can tell you're a good person. So thank you for that. And so I'm quite serious when I say I hope you hear this next part. I hope you really listen to this next part, because I think this is really important for people who are going to experience this in America, because there's going to be a lot of narratives that are going to come your way, and you're going to be better equipped because you heard this here first, okay? Since World War II, America has been moving forward on the theory I just described, and that theory has been encapsulated in the concept of dollar hegemony, that the point of economics, that the center of economic power is financialization, the dollar, money. That's the goal. Accumulate as much money as possible. Increase profits as much as possible. Money, 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 money. And we don't need regulation. We don't need the government coming in. We don't need any of that. We need to operate in a chaos system, what we call the free market, and everybody should just look out for themselves in the pursuit of the dollar. And for a minute, it was working for America. Post-World War II, the entire rest of the world had been destroyed, right? Europe had been reduced to rubble. The Soviet Union had been reduced to rubble. China was still developing itself and having to make concessions and negotiations because of the Vietnam War and the war of aggression against it. Latin America not in a position to compete with America. America is untouched It's industrial base. It's manufacturing base. And incidentally, the center of Marxist economics is manufacturing. So the Americans say that the dollar is the most important thing. Marxists say that it's manufacturing that's the most important thing. What they call the means of production, the ability to produce stuff, manufacturing. So America, post-World War II, essentially creates a series of institutions and says to the entire rest of the world, if you want to trade goods, especially oil, but goods generally, with one another, then you're gonna do it on the dollar. If you don't, we will bomb the fuck out of you. And that's what's called the international rules-based order, right? The international rules-based order is you will trade on the dollar or we will bomb you or coup your government. That's America's promise to the world, and they've definitely made good on that promise. What this does is it allows America to go to other countries and say, hey, we just printed a bunch of dollars. We're going to give you those dollars that we literally just print. We literally just print them. So we're going to give you these dollars that we print, and you're going to give us assets. You're going to give us bananas. You're going to give us cobalt. You're going to give us iron. You're going to give us oil, right, in exchange for our dollars. And then you can use those dollars to trade for other things that you need. And of course, they're running this little scam on all these countries. And so the end result is that America is getting an enormous influx of resources into its own borders for nothing, for dollars that it prints, right? During this period of time, American capitalists get it into their heads. Wait a minute. We can make more money if we take our manufacturing out of America and send it overseas to a place like China, where the labor is cheaper and they don't have so much regulation and so much labor situations. The situation in China was literally, they had just fought a revolutionary war. They had just done the Great Leap Forward to prepare for military action against the Americans in Vietnam and Korea. So it was a highly militarized country whose expectation of work was to work. And they didn't have any of this kind of stuff. Yep, and Silva, I'm just explaining why that's happening. Right? Just now. So you're a little bit ahead of me. Good for you, bud. So American capitalists shipped the means of production, right? Shipped their manufacturing. Remember, the center of Marxist economic thought is manufacturing. It's not the dollar, it's manufacturing. Who controls the factories? So they ship them overseas to China. And China uses them. Uses the factories in order to increase their own prosperity, right? Which is why labor costs are beginning to grow in the countries, because prosperity is growing in those countries. And those countries are beginning to create more unionized ideas, and those countries are beginning to create workers' councils and things like this. And they're beginning to expect more of the society that they live in, so labor costs are growing. Meanwhile, America has been impoverished. Look at what happened in Detroit, right? Detroit went from being a vibrant manufacturing sector to being a hollowed out husk of a city. Look at Camden, New Jersey. What Chris Hedges and Joe Sacco call the sacrifice zones in America. The sacrifice zones. And so, at first, the American capitalists didn't care. They never once cared about the people of America. Ever. That the people of America were just workforces for them. So they shipped their manufacturing overseas, and at first they were making a ton of dollars. a currency that they themselves are responsible for printing. So you can kind of see the lunacy of this. But that's what they did. The rest of the world steadily began to see that power was shifting away from America towards China. And why? Because China has the means of production, the center of Marxist economic thought. And they proved that power actually does emanate from manufacturing. It doesn't emanate from the dollar. And so what's begun happening, and this has been since about 2000, maybe 2005, is that the rest of the world is beginning to trade more with China than it is with America. Right? So Brazil. I'll give you a really key example of how this might manifest in your life. Okay? So Brazil has been trading with America and has been accepting dollars in exchange for coffee. America does not grow a single bean of coffee. No coffee is grown in America. We don't have the climate for it. We have to import all our coffee. So the arrangement for a long time was, we will send you coffee, Brazil will send America coffee, if America sends dollars. Well, now Brazil can send that coffee over to China. And China is saying, oh, we can just give you resources directly. You don't need to get hung up on this American system. You don't need to constantly be tied up with these Americans. We can just do a one-to-one trade and make it easy. In fact, we'll even run a trade deficit with you for a period of time. How's that sound? Oh, you don't agree with our terms? Oh, that's fine. We'll just renegotiate those terms. Sounds a lot better than America's idea of, oh, you don't like our terms? Well, here's the CIA to coup your government. We're going to send in a junta group. And the rest of the world is beginning to pivot towards China. China is now most of the world's number one trading partner. And so what's going to happen one day to you, living in West Virginia, you're going to go to your local coffee shop, and you're going to say, I'd like a cup of coffee. And they're going to look back at you and say, that'll be $20. Because all of those coffee beans are going to China now. And India now. They're not going to America anymore. Because, and as the entire rest of the world begins to trade more with China, well, America is going to look at these countries and say, hey, can we get goods for the dollar? And those people are going to say no. They're going to say, no, we don't think we want your dollar anymore. I don't think we're going to trade on the dollar anymore. I think we're going to trade with someone else. And America, so the flow of free goods into America will come to an end. Meanwhile, America produces nothing. It gutted its manufacturing base and sent it all overseas and empowered foreign countries. It kind of scratches his head about it because it doesn't know anything about Marxism or communism. It thinks that the center of power is its dollar, when the center of power is manufacturing. And it so explicitly believes in that ideology that it was willing to ship out its manufacturing base to other countries. So this has already put America into a significant decline. I already mentioned Detroit. Well, if what happened in Detroit was happening in any Chinese city, the Western capitalists would never shut up about it. They would never stop talking about it. They would always bring up, oh, well, Wuhan, we all saw what happened in Wuhan, how it became a gutted out city, how it became a hollowed shell. That's communism for you. Communism fails every time it's been tried. Just look at Wuhan. But if it happens in America, oh, that's just business. That's just how business works, So you get some good, you get some bad. That's fine. Capitalism is still the best system in the world, though. Even though it literally hollows cities out. From the inside out. I'm living in a city that's undergoing this hollowing out. It's happening along different lines. The rent, and price of food and all that is just getting so outrageous that people can no longer live here. So capitalism is hollowing its cities out. It's hollowing its countries out. And the decline is going to happen so swiftly that I don't think the average American is going to be able to keep up with it. That prices are going to go up. Inflation is already going through the roof, right? Take it from Canada. We're ahead of you on this, by the way. We're ahead of you in terms of inflation. American inflation has been going up, not like it has been in Canada, because Canada has a smaller population. But it's happening in America. Prices are going to spike up on you. Rent is going to spike up on you. Things are going to get out of control and things are going to spiral. And it is only a matter of time until states begin to ask themselves, why are we part of this union? What are we actually gaining from this federal union? What are we doing here with this federated body? And you're going to have two events happen simultaneously. The working people of America are going to be completely disenfranchised. Their pay isn't going to, the pay they receive is no longer going to pay for the rent, right? They're not going to be able to buy the goods that are being sold by the capitalists any longer. Everything is just going to go towards food and shelter. And this is already happening. You're seeing it in the quiet quitting movement. You're seeing it in the work from home movement. You're seeing it across the board in America, how people are rebelling against the system and basically saying out loud, what's the point of working hard if you don't get anything for it? I can't buy a house, right? I can't own property anymore. All of these prospects are over. What's the point of increasing my productivity if it doesn't mean that I get a raise? Because even if I did get a raise, inflation just chews it away, and I remain in the same spot. So my life has stagnated. It's very clear. And incidentally, on top of all of that, the birth rate has plummeted, right? So you have an entire generation of disenfranchised kids that can't have kids, can't own property, and we're scratching our heads wondering why everybody's in this state of rebellion. The Americans... And so America is facing a major and rapid decline. A major and rapid decline. And it's all because of the false theory of power that America was running on. That power emanates from financialization when power actually emanates from manufacturing. So my expectation, and if I was a betting man, now we're getting into prophecy, okay? Everything I just said up until this point, I'm of the opinion it's 1 + 1 = 2, okay? That the building is falling over, I'm just calling it, right? So hold on 1 second, guys. My dog is scratching at me. He wants a blankie. Give me a second. Blankie time. Stay. Okay, buddy. Here's your blankie. Here's your blankie. Here you go, buddy. You're such a good little boy. Yeah. Milo deserves everything he wants because he's my little prince. He's my little beautiful prince. So now we're going to get into prophecy, okay? I think that the first state to break off from America is Texas. And I think there's a lot of good reasons why that's the case. As the American system falls into decline, the power structure is going to have to raise taxes where the money actually is. So that means they're going to have to raise taxes on the rich. Elon Musk, right? They have to do it, right? If they want to have infrastructure, if they want to pay for military expenditure, if they want to do anything at all in the world, even a tiny little bit, they're going to have to raise taxes. Well, they can't raise taxes on you. They can't raise taxes on me. They've already squeezed the blood from the stone. 60% of America's population is living paycheck to paycheck as it is. Right? As it is. So they're going to have to raise taxes on the rich. So that's people like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg. Well, where's all this money coalesced in America? Texas. And why has all that money coalesced in Texas? Because Texas told them straight out, we're not going to make you pay any taxes. No state tax for you guys. Right? That's how Texas rides. So all the rich people went to Texas. And they're spending their money in Texas. And everybody's having like a hoop hollering good time because Joe Rogan built a comedy bar there or something, right? Meanwhile, the rest of the country is just getting hollowed out. And so when the state raises Elon Musk's taxes, Elon Musk, who's literally building a town in Texas called Snailbrook, which is just the return of company towns. So when they try to do this, Elon Musk will think to himself, well, I don't want to pay those taxes. My whole ideology is based around not paying taxes. In fact, you should pay fealty to me because I've got all this money and you worship money because we're capitalists. And capitalism is no longer a scientific theory, but a religious ideology. And Elon Musk will turn to the working people of Texas and say, hey, you see that line that comes off your paycheck that says federal taxes? Why are you paying that? And the working people of Texas will go, yeah, why are we paying that? What are we getting from that? We don't get health care. What are we getting for this? We don't get border security. What are we getting? And they'll start an independence movement that the rich and the poor will share an aligned objective with the idea of getting rid of the federal government, and they'll succeed. That's my bet. And that's where and then finally the question will be, will the United States military be willing to fight the Texas militias? Well, a huge amount of military personnel come from Texas. Texas is sort of renowned for being a big part and a big contributor of the military personnel that exists in the American military. It's very difficult for me to believe that those Texans are going to kill their own people. So that's me being a betting man, and that's a narrative of how a state will peel off from the Union. And as things continue to degrade and as things continue to decay, the people of America will have every reason to do it. Right? As Karl Marx put it, you have nothing to lose but your chains. And I'm not saying this is going to happen tomorrow. Right? But this is the trajectory America is on. That the trajectory of the American Empire is now the same as the trajectory of the British Empire, the trajectory of the Roman Empire, the trajectory of Chinese empires of yore, the trajectory of the Byzantine Empire, the trajectory of African empires. Like, the trajectory of empire is that once they begin to decay, they begin to break apart. So what I am saying is not a prediction, it's a promise. Just like if you hit 1 + 1 equals, well, it's not a prediction to say that the outcome will be 2. It's a promise. From there, so to answer, somebody asked me before, when will the revolution happen? Okay. So it's from this that individual states and counties, provinces, towns, and cities will begin to have internal revolutions. Some of them will be fascist. The southern states will be fascist, and it won't be too much longer, I think, until they're explicitly fascist. Ron DeSantis is explicitly fascist, and the governor of Florida is explicitly fascist. The things that he's doing are absolutely things that Nazi party leaders would have done and would have had no problem with. And the southern states generally lean in that direction. And so it's not a difficult thing for me to say or to believe that the South will rise again. They've been saying it all along, and they're right. The South will rise again. It'll be a disaster for the black populations that live there, but that's what's going to happen. But I can see of places like Seattle, Washington, Portland, Oregon, many of the sort of what we would call flyover states. I can see communism and communist ideas starting to really take hold there, even if they're loath to call them communist, right? The ideas will be communist. I find myself talking to people from the Midwest, and if I don't reveal I'm a communist, and I just let prairie folk basically talk to me about politics, they sound like communists to me, right? Their ideas are all communist ideas. But if you say the word communist, then they just lose their fucking mind. Right? Well, that's kind of you saying never forget. That's kind of you. Monsieur, good to see you as well. These are fellows over on Twitch. Andrew has a really interesting observation, which I think is true. People are starting to get bored with Western propaganda. Western propaganda is too one-sided, and it's becoming obvious to many people. This is such an astute observation, Andrew, that it's about boredom. Like, if people... It doesn't matter if what you're saying is true if they're bored with it, right? Like, people want to move on from things they're bored with. And that boredom from Western propaganda comes from the fact that Western propaganda is no longer rooted in observable reality. The position that the Americans are still running with is still a Cold War position, and that we are the center of the universe, and that we are the manifest destiny, center of power, all that blah blah blah, etc., on and on it goes. And people just don't believe it anymore, because it was always kind of unbelievable, right? Yeah, CH, I'm not going to allow people to put links in the chat for a lot of really good reasons. Like, I understand your position, but once you see my position, you understand pretty clearly why I don't want people just putting random stuff in the chat. Well, Silva, I hope that all of that was useful for you, or that at least the perspective was interesting to you. That here you are talking to a dyed-in-the-wool communist. This is what communists look like, right? And I can go into the history or the theory if you really want me to. Communists are fighting so that you can keep your paycheck. Communists are fighting so that the homeless people who are on the street can have homes. Communists are fighting so that you can have food and shelter. And really ask of the capitalist system very plain questions. Why are food and shelter withheld from the public in exchange for their labor? Why do we have to work for people we've never met and know nothing about, and perhaps even despise, in order to get access to food and shelter? Why is it that the starting position for the vast majority of the people is starvation and homelessness, unless we sell ourselves? Why is it that the Lincoln Republicans ran on a platform of abolishing this system that we're under, and that they called it wage slavery? Why did Abraham Lincoln call this wage slavery? Why did the Confederates of the South argue that chattel slavery was actually a superior moral system to our current system of wage slavery? Why is it that we are tolerating this system of wage slavery when its outcomes are so obviously negative and so obviously terrible and so obviously bad? And it's for asking these questions that communists are pushed out of the conversation, not permitted to speak, that other leftists like progressives or like Bernie Sanders, they gain the moniker of communists so that you don't actually have to deal with the real communists in the room, the people who are actually fighting along communist lines. There's a good reason for it. Because if you start asking these questions, you start to realize that the power structure doesn't actually have answers. And the answers they have sound an awful lot like, shut up and work harder. The political system in America agrees on one point. Across the entire political spectrum and on all institutional levels. You are supposed to be a serf. You are supposed to work for an owner. You are supposed to keep your mouth shut. You are supposed to just work hard for whatever wage we give you. And there's no one in the political system that will even allow the question to be asked. Because it's a show. That maybe you do like Donald Trump more than Joe Biden. So what? I like Andre the Giant more than I like Hulk Hogan. So what? Nice wall, good to see you. Mesh, you came in a long time ago. Good to see you, Mesh. Oh. So. That was real fun. I'm glad I got to do that. In news that nobody's actually reporting, 3 CIA operatives among 50 arrested in a failed coup in Congo. So, let's do this. Let's do this. Okay, guys. Here we go. It's time for John to embarrass himself. Does John know where the Democratic Republic of Congo is? It's right in the middle, right? Like, isn't it? Congo? Here we are in Africa. Right there. Okay, hold on. Here we are in Africa. Let's zoom this in. Let's go. We all know that's Libya, so I'm not cheating by looking up here. Algeria, right? Gabon is right here. Madagascar is the island over here. Right? South Africa is right at the bottom. Yeah. The Congo is right in the dead center. It's right. No, this is Zimbabwe. Okay, I'm calling it. Congo. DRC. Yes. Yes. I am the greatest communist alive. Now, of course, this is confusing because there's the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and then there's the Republic of Congo of the Congo, and I'm unfamiliar with the history of why this is the case. I don't know everything. I don't know everything about every country. And African countries, here's the paintbrush that you can basically paint most of Africa with. Not to be a generalist, right? Not to be this, but it does seem to be the case that most African countries have. We were developing just fine on our own, thank you very much. And then colonialism happened. And then we all dealt with the colonial period. And now we're trying to get rid of the colonial period. That seems to be the narrative. So I just want to be 100% sure before I start mouthing off, as if I know. Is this in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, or is this in the Republic of Congo? I'm pretty sure it's the DRC, right? Like, if I was a betting man, I would definitely bet on the DRC as opposed to the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. Okay, great. So here's what's going on, guys. Okay? Cobalt. Okay? Cobalt is an incredibly important mineral resource for computers, for chip manufacturing, right? Cobalt. All of your phone technology, all of the next generation of technology that's being made requires cobalt. The DRC has a huge amount of cobalt in it, right? Massive amounts of cobalt. The largest cobalt mines in the world exist in the DRC. And moreover, the country that ultimately has control of those mines, China. China owns 80% of the cobalt that's coming out of the DRC. This happened for exactly the reason you would expect. That the DRC is trying to decolonize itself from its European and Western assailants. It's sick and tired of the deal that America has been putting at its doorstep, which is do what you're told or we'll bomb you. And the Chinese came in and said, hey, how about we just offer you some deals? We can just trade. We'll help you build these mines. We'll help you build infrastructure. We'll help you build all of this stuff. We'll gladly do this, right? And we'll get the mine up, right? And we won't enslave you in debt, peonage. We'll have the mine. You'll pull the cobalt out of the mine, and you'll sell it to us. And in exchange, we can give you whatever you need, right? Or you can try to get access to goods from elsewhere, but we're not going to invade you, and we're not going to overthrow your government. And initially, the Congo says no. And so China keeps at it, and they just keep negotiating, and they just keep negotiating until they finally have a deal that the DRC can accept. And why did America permit this to happen? Because they never thought it would, right? Remember, America has been running on a false scientific theory, on a theory that they thought was a scientific theory, but was a religious ideology, which was the primacy of the dollar. And they're getting beaten. Their theory is wrong. They're getting beaten. And they're getting beaten by the Chinese, who are running on an accurate economic theory, which is the theory of Marxism. And the DRC... So the arrangement between the DRC and China for the longest time was exactly that. Well, America's finally waking up and going, oh, wait a minute. A huge reason why China's tech sector is able to develop so swiftly is because they have control of the means of production. They have control of these cobalt mines. They have control of all this stuff. They can get all this cobalt into China so their tech sector can use it and then turn around and sell products to the entire rest of the world. This is a catastrophe. We've got to do something about it. What are we going to do? 3 CIA operatives among 50 arrested in a failed coup in Congo. That's what they're going to do. And how do we know? Because that's how America does business. That's how they've always done business. That's all they've ever done. They've never not done anything else. So this shows you pretty plain. First of all, it shows you two major things. Okay? America cannot learn from its mistakes. Right? It doesn't know how to negotiate. It doesn't know how to do diplomacy. It doesn't know how to engage as a peer. That it looks down on the Democratic Republic of Congo. Absolutely. America views the Democratic Republic of the Congo as a colony and nothing else. And nothing else. So that's one. They can't learn from their mistakes. Two, America is too weak now. It didn't succeed. Right? Like, go ask the people of Chile if America succeeded in a coup. Right? America used to be able to coup countries. It used to be able to overthrow countries. It knew how to do it, and it did it. I mean, for God's sakes, it's done plenty of coups throughout its history in Africa. Most African nations have experienced American coups. Like, coups are pretty common. The country of Gabon recently had a coup where internal military forces overthrew the government. So the people of Africa are familiar with coups. So the fact that the Americans attempted a coup in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and it failed shows you that they're weak and that their strategies don't work anymore because they're too weak to actually enable them and actually do them. And not only did the coups fail, some of the operatives who were attempting to do the coup were captured. This is a hand in the cookie jar moment if there ever was one. We literally have CIA operatives. We have them. They were there while trying to coup us. This is American fingerprints all over it. And America was attempting to overthrow the DRC so that they could get access to the cobalt and so they could take that cobalt away from China. Like, America's the bad guys on the world stage by a lot. Like, it's not close. Like when you watch your Star Wars, understand that when we're talking about the Empire, we're talking about the United States. Right? Like, what's his name? Lucas said recently that the plot of Star Wars is the American invasion of Vietnam, with the Empire being America and the Vietnamese being the rebellion. It's so brilliant watching the whole thing blow up in their faces, man. I'm so glad I'm alive right now. I gotta tell you. I am. I can't imagine what it would be like for me living even 100 years ago. Living in... I either would be a fascist or I would be having to deal with these guys when they were, like, really doing shit. Right? Like, right now things are relatively more stable and relatively more civilized, right? I can't just take a rifle and shoot some First Nations guy and shrug and be like, well, what are you going to do? Right? I can't lead a massacre of bison and murder 100,000 bison, you know? Like, these things are considered a bit passé in America these days. I'm so glad for that. Because, like, what a dark and brutal country. I'm so glad that I get to be here to watch this absolute psychopath, this absolute nightmare Nazi who's done nothing but destroy the world for its own benefit, finally have the birds come home to roost. CH says, John Dude, 25 years ago, it just kept looking like breakthrough, then not. The capitalists found new allies and rhetoric each round, like trans people or whatever. Yeah, this next wave of that, CH, this next wave, it's going to be all internal. right? Like America's getting isolated. Who's America's allies? Like, that's not rhetorical. Like, who are actually America's allies in the world right now? Who are the people who America can turn to and actually be like, we're going to get through this together. We're going to work this through together. Europe? Europe keeps electing far-right fascists. It just lost a war against Russia. Australia? Australia's entire position on world affairs is, hey, whoa, we can just trade peacefully. We don't need to go to war with China. Whoa, that's Australia's whole position. Which makes sense. I mean, for God's sakes, look at it. Australia and China should be bros. Like, it's so silly. Australia should not hold antagonistic policies against China. They just shouldn't. That if I was living in Australia and any political leader stood up and said, like, if a junior member of a junior caucus said within a political party, we should think negatively about China, I would and that person remained in that party, I would consider that an indictment of the entire party. And that by itself would be enough for me to be like, bye-bye. Bye-bye, you kooky, weird, strange oddballs. Go back into the corner where you belong. If you're living in Australia, China should be your best friend. I don't know why anybody thinks any other thing should be true. Like, this is your rocket to the moon, guys. Like, this is your golden ticket. Like, China is ascending. It's right over there. Like, what are you doing? Like, if America was in ascension, I would be like, yeah, we should definitely be these guys' buds. What are you talking about? Resist on Twitch says there's a perfect little skit of the insanity of Australian defense policy targeting China on an Aussie show called Utopia. Yes, I think I've seen this, where it ends up boiling down to, we need to increase the military budget to protect our trade routes to China from China. Yep, the EU is being weakened by Russia in the way they were hoping to do to Russia. Yeah. Well, and a big reason for all of this, guys. A big reason for all of this. And I've said it several times on this cast because I'm trying to be explicit, right? Like, I'm trying to really... I believe very strongly if you're going to try to be a commentator, if you're going to make the attempt that I am making to be a credible voice in the media sphere, to be somebody that someone can listen to and take seriously as a commentator and as an analyst, well, then I believe that full transparency on your own principles and your own ideas is paramount. There are a lot of frauds in the conversations that in the conversation today that don't actually have principles, and they won't tell you what they are because they don't have any, because they understand that the center of their principles is actually just who's the most powerful, right? Who has the most money? Who can help me get rich is really what these guys all care about. And like Tim Pool jumps to mind, right? Jordan Peterson jumps to mind, right? Who's the most powerful person in the room? How do I ingratiate myself to that person in order to make myself rich? Right? That's essentially their principles. And so I think it's important for me to state my principles constantly so that people can challenge them, right? And so that I can actually be challenged on my principles. And one of my observations of what's going on in this modern era is that the American theory has been disproven, and that the Chinese theory has been proven. And what that means is that the bedrock foundation, the linchpin of American thought, no longer exists. It has been destroyed. It has been removed. And the entire tower has come down because of it. But you're still left with a lot of the edifice of it and people who are hanging on to the theory of dollar primacy, the theory of the profit motive. And you still have people arguing along those lines. And and what that means, though, right? You can be a very intelligent, well-meant, a good person, like a good father, a good family man, a good member of your community, a good Christian, right? You can be holding on to all of this. You can be trying your best and doing your best, and everyone around you can see that you're doing that. But if you're running on a false theory, if you're running on something that's not rooted in reality, you can still encounter major disaster. And that's what's happening. And that's what happened to Europe. That's exactly what happened to Europe. That they thought, NATO thought with America, NATO thought they were going to get into this war in Ukraine and that they were going to be able to isolate Russia and that they were going to be able to put Russia into decline. It's not a serious thing to believe. It's not realistic. It's outrageous, in fact, that they ever thought that they could do it. But the thing is that they have their belief system rooted in the primacy of the dollar, the primacy of currency, the primacy of money. And if that's how you think about these things, well, then you can make very foolish decisions for yourself. You can make very foolish decisions for yourself. Countries are agreeing to really long build time projects so that they can cancel when U.S. can no longer hurt them. Like Canada could offer to finish 3 big Arctic bases by 2040 and just go slow and build them as space habitats to invent new tech, then sell tech for space when the U.S. collapses. Yet Philippines just took huge bribes to let USA reopen like 5 bases, but it will take a decade. Those bases are in volcano zones. In my opinion, a lot of countries are pulling a Ukraine or pulling an Israel. Yeah. Only idiots could have believed neoclassical economics as much as neocons do. Well, I think this is really key and important to understand, right? The key important thing for people to understand, right? If you're running on a false theory and you don't have another theory to replace your false theory, and you actually view the theory that's actually bearing some fruit negatively and demonize it and say that if even reading it is bad, even knowing what it is bad, then you can't get out of it. And that's where America really is right now. That's where America and Europe are right now. They don't know how to get out of it. They don't know how to solve this problem. They don't know how to square this circle. They've gotten themselves into this position, and they've gotten themselves into this position because of their theory, and they don't know how to get out of it. And the very people who are holding on to the theories that could help them get out of it, they get demonized. That's commie talk. These guys are communists. We need to purge our ranks of communists. Okay, and you will. Then what? So America and Europe, frankly, are going into a really major decline. I think it's actually going to be way worse for Europe. Like, I think that sections of the United States have potential to recover and shift and change policy and figure something out. I think California is a good example of that. I think California is going to move into this new era not so terribly as compared to everybody else. But a place like France, like Europe's wealth has been brought to it by colonialization, by the colonial period. Places like Gabon have been giving France free shit for a century. Well, it's ending. It's ending. It's not going to continue. What's France going to do? It doesn't manufacture anything. Doesn't offer anything that anybody wants or cares about. What's it going to do? This is a good opportunity to say, please like, please share, please subscribe. If you like my work, please consider donating to my Patreon. Even $1 gets you into the Discord, and it makes me feel super cool about myself. more importantly than any of that, please let people know that I exist. Even if you don't think I'm correct, but you think I'm an interesting voice, let people know I exist. Boy, howdy, would I enjoy if I enjoyed today where I got to talk to somebody who disagreed with me, and it let me give my perspective. That was very enjoyable today. Yeah, France is attempting to recolonize portions of Africa. Of course, it's not going to work, right? Like, now that Chinese interests have gotten involved in Africa, I just don't think I think that Africa is basically throwing the colonial period off of itself. There'll be sections of it, but like the most important sections, right? Because I mean, I just think that Africa saw what happened in Libya, and really that put into sharp focus for the entire continent that, oh, these Americans are psychopaths. Like, it's not just a history. It's just not a note. You know what, Watson? I actually recorded a walk in the graveyard about the ICC ruling, but I realized after I did it that I was incorrect. I was giving incorrect information. I initially believed that the ICC had released the arrest warrant, but instead I found out later, after I already did the recording, that it was actually just the prosecutor recommending that it be done. So I do want to do another graveyard walk. You guys have been asking for it. I think that it would be useful for my channel to begin doing that again, simply as a form of advertising, if nothing else. So it's on my shoulders now to come up with good topics to essentially do kind of an impromptu, improvised essay about, more or less. So I've just got to actually do it, right? I've just got to actually do it. I think the reason why I've been so resistant for so long is because the walk around videos, when I used to do them, they just fit into my life. I would just go for these walks, and then I would just be like, well, I'll record while I'm doing this walk. And so, but now I actually have to just go do them, right? That they're not part of my day-to-day life anymore. I just have to go do them. So I just have to go do them. Yeah, short videos are good for sharing and getting you out there. Exactly, just me. But that's right, you know? And it's not like there isn't... Like, I think this ICC ruling is exactly the right thing for that. It's exactly the right thing for that kind of format, that you can just spend 5-10 minutes and talk about this whole issue, right? Anyway. Thank you so much for continuing to push me on that, guys. I appreciate it. As we are dwindling down the final hours, let's just do a quick... And I can decide if I'm going to hang on to some of these. Putin. The CIA does not work on behalf of the American people or act in their interests. The CIA is a rogue element of the deep state, an expression of the will of the world oligarchy and their vision for a new world order. That's from Putin. This one I am going to hang on to. I definitely want to read this one. Wage theft now outnumbers all other types of theft in the United States, reaching 482 million. Just like, anytime you see any report on any subject that's like, people are going into Walmarts and stealing from Walmarts. All right. Cool. Oh no, people are stealing from Walmart, so no. This is actually an interesting one that I might actually bring back again. Over 100 basic income pilots have run in the United States cities. Now states are getting creative to fund no-string-attached cash payments. This is an interesting development. Gat Naranja over on Twitch says, this is a quote, social media robots. This is a quote. Hey, quote, let's, quote, go, quote, steal, quote, from, quote, Walmart, quote. That's a quote. We here at the Canadian Commie do not believe that you should go definitely steal from Walmart. We here at the Canadian Commie are expressly against the idea that you go steal from Walmart as much as you want. Take as much from Walmart as you want is something that you will not hear from the Canadian Commie. So to be perfectly clear to all of the algorithmic robots, as well as any censors that are watching the Canadian Commie, we do not advocate that everyone take as much from Walmart as you possibly can, as fast as you possibly can, and as often as you possibly can. Thank you. This has been a public service announcement from the Canadian Commie. So, I used to be big into the basic income movement. I was a big proponent for it. But I steadily began to realize, and I think the inflationary period that we're experiencing proved it, that we're ruled by psychopaths. And if you just passed a basic income, then suddenly the price of bananas will be $5 per banana, right? Like, you put in $1,000 basic income? Whoa, would you look at that? Rent is suddenly $1,000. Oh, would you look at that? Property taxes now suddenly $1,000, right? Like, it's just a subsidy for landlords. That's all a basic income is. And unless you get rid of the system of landlording, and unless you actually like tax billionaires out of existence and seize the means of production and make it so that these people no longer have any power, then something like a basic income kind of makes sense, right? But if you're operating in a capitalist system and the capitalists are able to just freely manipulate prices however they want, your basic income is pointless. So why fight for it? Like, if you're going to put in all this energy to fight for a basic income, you might as well be fighting a revolution. Which, that all said, I don't hate that these basic income pilots are happening. I don't hate that there are people that are moving along these lines. I don't care. I don't hate that there is all this experimentation. I think that's actually a good thing, just to kind of see what's going on, right? Just to kind of see what's going on. Ontario's pace of new home construction. I'm going to hang on to this one for tomorrow, too. I think I'm going to hang on to all these. This is just me giving you a little teaser, guys, of what tomorrow is going to look like. Ontario's pace of new home construction slows to 2018 levels. Who called it? John did. Oh, capitalists can't build shit. They don't know how to build anything, right? They're certainly not going to complete projects, right? Why do capitalists not complete projects? Because there's no money in it. You make more money not completing projects. Isn't capitalism a system that definitely works? What a great, wonderful system that definitely is working. Oh yeah, this one. I'm not going to hang on to this one. Scarlett Johansson said she declined ChatGPT's proposal to use her voice for AI, but they used a sound-alike anyway. Her quote, "I was shocked." Like, these capitalists are psychopaths. They asked her, "Hey, can we use your voice?" And she said no, and they used it anyway. Because capitalists are psychopaths. Capitalists are psychopaths. Capitalists are psychopaths. Yeah, they're psychopaths. Oh yeah, the West always gives Ukraine weapons 1 year after it actually needs them, Zelensky says. Zelensky outright standing up in front of everybody saying that the West does not protect its partners. Do not ally with the West. They will give you weapons 1 year after you actually need them. What a terrible partner the West is, says Zelensky. Do not ally with them. I could have told you that. Fun story. Former white nationalist R. Derek Black has come out as trans. That's nice. That's nice. It's nice to see that people can come around and can grow in these things. A government scientist from he's volcanologist and climatologist professor Bill McGuire wrote a now deleted X quote. If I'm brutally honest, the only realistic way I see emissions falling as fast as they need to avoid catastrophic climate breakdown is the culling of the human population by a pandemic with a very high fatality rate. Just saying the quiet part out loud. Right? Just say the quiet part out loud. That's fine. Normal. Oh yeah, I'm going to hang on to this one. So Reuters published an article entitled, it's a photo essay of Pyongyang titled Architecture of Control, North Korea's Bizarre Postmodern Cityscapes. But each photo just depicts a beautiful, clean city. Colorful, not my taste. The one critique I have for you, North Korea, Kim Jong-un, I know you're out there listening. Your guys' color palette, it's got to be a cultural thing, eh? Right? Like, it's got to be a cultural thing. It's just this color especially, this mint green that they use everywhere, it's just got to be a cultural choice. Because boy, do they love it. And boy, do I not like it. It is absolutely not what I would be down for. Right? But they seem to. Right? They seem to love this shit. Right? Look at this one. Like, this looks like from a video game, dude. This doesn't even look like it's real. This looks like City Skylines. Or like Sim City or something. You're just like, these buildings don't look real. Yeah, no one knows what postmodernism means, I guess. Yeah, of course we don't. Right? The guy that's been screaming at us about postmodernism this whole time is a schizophrenic. Jordan Peterson, right? Well, the postmodern cultural Bolsheviks. He doesn't know what these things are. And so, of course, we don't. We don't have anybody teaching us. I barely know. I barely know what fucking postmodernism is. People have explained it to me several times, and I've been like, and I just moved on with my life. I feel like postmodernism is itself so postmodern that I can't tell what it is. I'm only kind of half joking, by the way. Like, what a cool looking space this is. Like, this is probably the ugliest, right? Because there's no color on it. This actually looks fairly American right here. Look, they put a military guy in this shot. Authoritarian state. Dictatorship. Evil. There's a military guy in front of their really nice looking buildings that we're telling you is a sign of their authoritarian control. Look, it's solar panels. Authoritarian solar panel fields. I think those are solar panels. Are they? If they're not solar panels, I don't get it. Like, I don't know what these are then. This building's pretty cool. Okay, I don't think postmodernism is nonsense. I just think that it's like really loosey-goosey. And it's loosey-goosey on purpose. Like, postmodernism is a exploration. So hold on, CH, because you're getting into something here, which is postmodernism is literally invented by CIA funding people like Jackson Pollock. So the CIA's involvement in the postmodernist movement does not discredit the postmodernist movement. That it definitely throws shade on its importance and its prevalence, but the concept and the idea of postmodernism, which is like non-structuralist, it's very warbly on purpose. And there is one thing that has come out of the postmodernist movement that I actually really respect, which is the desire of the artist to be able to evoke emotions from the viewer of their art. That the artist's emotions can transfer through their art from the artist to the viewer. This idea that exists within postmodernism, I really think actually has there's something cool going on there. There's something really interesting in that concept that had really not been fully expressed or explored until the postmodernist movement. And so, yeah. And I mean, it makes sense that the CIA would fund postmodernism because their argument was we wanted to present something that was further to the left than what the Soviets were producing. And I mean, what's more to the left than postmodernism, right? Postmodernism is just like, yeah, maybe you're right. I'm not an expert. CH says, John, I believe you're talking about expressionism. They're not postmodernism, but who cares with the CIA relabeling stuff? Yeah. Postmodernism means something different in art than in philosophy and history and sociology. It means a lot of stuff at the same time. It means nothing. We're having a real Watson writes, postmodernism rejects the Enlightenment, objective truth, meta-narratives from a Marxist perspective, rejects the revolutionary capability of the working class. Oh, so it's just bullshit. That's a beautiful shot right there. That's a really beautiful shot. Notice how their street is not just loaded with cars. Ugh, that's so nice. Just no cars. This is the only shot that I think I could describe as like authoritarian, right? All you'd have to do is put like a Hans Zimmer track on this shot, boom, right? And then like it's you zoom in on this and it's this guy up here and he's like got his fingers steepled and he's looking over. Yes, I rule this place. Yes, of course, yes. It was always reactionary. All right, cool. Thanks, Watson. Oh no. People in dresses that look different than the dresses we wear. Dancing in a plaza. The only way that this could be happening is if they were being forced to do it in an evil, tyrannical, tyrant state. Dance! Dance for your ruler! Ho 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 ho! It can't be that they actually have, like, community and culture, right? That can't be it. How they actually have, you know, community. And, you know, culture. You know? I think my favorite picture in this batch is the final one. Because they gotta end on a, like, oh, what is communism? This is something that communists would do, and that's bad. Boy, I love the Sphinx. That's a beautiful picture, actually. And there's something really lovely about the fact that they built these statues so that they could actually look at the sun. Right? That's really lovely. Yeah. The Sphinx and the Parthenon and the pyramids, the Notre Dame Cathedral, these are great works of brilliant art done by good, solid, clean white men. What? A bunch of yellow guys made some stuff. Totalitarian, authoritarian. Yeah. There used to be a North Korean vlogger on YouTube. She went shopping for handbucks, and my God, they were beautiful. Yeah. Yep. All right, guys. I've reached the end of this one. Always remember, each and every one of you is a quantum being walking around in quantum energy. These billionaires are spending hundreds of billions of dollars in the hopes you'll never realize it. You'll just stay the good little commodity they need you to be. Rebel. revolt, repent. Good luck. We're going to need it.